We don't have any 140-foot towers.
No, and that, if they can prove that they have to be on a 140-foot structure, then that would relieve them from having to put it on our water tower.
We could build a 140-foot water tower. I could get rid of my water tank. I wouldn't need it anymore.
Yeah, we can send high pressure water all the way over. But I believe that's why we entered into that kind of thing, because it left the door wide open for negotiations with private entities, and they could be cropping up anywhere.
Sure.
You could have one in the middle of Cumberland Head if somebody owned property. So that's why the law was done.
RFP or bids?
It's a request for proposals.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I changed on there
Okay.
a bit. I've made a couple of just quick edits.
Okay.
We just forgot a therefore be it and so on. And we're gonna open sealed proposals, not bids. Missed that one. Ricky, the second whereas,
Yeah.
substitute bids for proposals.
No, substitute proposals for bid.
They're not giving us a bid, they're giving us a proposal for service. And our
You're both saying the same thing.
You said substitute proposals.
You did say that, but I know what you meant.
No.
Yeah, you did.
I got a substitute bid for
That's what I
proposal.
said. No.
Okay, so you want me to change that to bids or proposal?
Proposal.
Says bid.
Good job.
My error.
It's an RFP for services.
Jerry, how long are our contracts with Verizon?
I have no idea. That we're gonna have
You're
to-
right, if there's 100, everyone's gonna go there.
Sure,
Everyone.
sure. But they have to bring in engineering data that proves
They
you
will.
can't get the same results.
You can prove, and they'll have some engineer here, and give you a 180-page
Okay,
report that
but
nobody can read with calculus formulas and put my hands on the end of that.
There's a resolution, but it's being changed as we sit here.
Okay, sounds good. Make sure you get your mail out of your box tonight before you leave, if you haven't.
I just got it.
So, you did? Good.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but I.
1 minute. I don't know. Yeah, I do have my keys, okay. We did get the information concerning the position of finance manager on our website, finally late this afternoon. Mr. Kimmel said he had a gnarly problem. Told him I'm very familiar with the family of gnarls. I've found that they ruined more than one of my days. Recent history. He fixed it. Anyone has any questions, it'd be good to send them there, because there is a hotspot that will enable the person to download the job description and an application right there on our line.
On our website.
Right, same thing they're gonna get when they come.
Okay.
I'm going to begin, my Mickey says 6:30, and I'm going to note everyone is present, and we're going to start this work session with Danielle. Again, I'm not 100% sure of the information you have. It looks like I'm looking over Gerard's. You have a letter that I had asked Danielle to share to encapsulate the situation, that being that she will not be available to perform her duties on October 7th, and the proposal. When Danielle first brought her solution to me, I discounted it fairly quickly as, that doesn't sound to me like it's going to work. Then we talked a little further about who and why and what his qualifications would be and some potential problems. And I weighed that against who on earth are we going to get to come one time maybe and give them the appropriate information to do something that has a particular set of skills and a knowledge base and is becoming a little bit contentious. We won't go there tonight. And I did a 180 and said, that may be a decent solution. And we brought it, I brought it to the work session. We don't have much time. And asked Danielle to come, and she said she would, thank you, to answer any questions. Like a lot of things, it's very difficult. This gentleman would have some vested interest. He has some background, he has some training. It's Danielle's job, bottom line, and we do a lot of times with people, we try to entertain their recommendations with a degree of support. I don't know what else we do, and how we could expect much of anyone else. Danielle, I didn't think to ask you before, do you recall what the per event compensation is?
It's 48 and change. We rounded up, it was roughly 50, I think. I'll figure that out. You didn't do it, somebody did it for me. I thought it was somebody from the board.
And, you know, the time that's going to be spent trying to bring somebody on board makes me nervous. I believe you said Derek did join you this past Sunday, went along with you to take a look and observe what you do.
Now, would Derek have to have formal training like you had?
No,
We don't have to send him away for the training that you had?
I
It
asked,
wouldn't even be available.
when he'd be available, and I asked Casey Levino, and she
Okay.
said no, it's like a per diem thing, it's one of those things, it's in case, and we're just obligated to have somebody as a backup for, and because I'm giving notice, it's kind of like, we know we need somebody to step in. And by shadowing me, I'm asked, even not knowing what's gonna happen, just in case it does happen, that
Right.
this is accepted. I've asked him to shadow me a few times before he actually has to do anything on his own.
Okay.
So that way he understands not only what he's doing, but the paperwork and the law. I prepared this binder for him, so he's already had this to look at and read through, and this is everything that I read when I went to training.
Now, the other concern, and I gotta be honest, it didn't dawn on me at first, Rick mentioned it, and he's absolutely right, is where does this fall in our nepotism law?
I took a look at that and actually have a copy in my notes, and I'll tell you where I think it falls with one of our resolves, and that was Resolution 145 of '06. It was also, I'll read it. Resolved that the town acknowledges there may be occasions when real-world needs of the town may require that an exception be made to this policy, and the town board reserves the right to make exceptions based upon the best interest of the town. We acknowledge those unique situations, and certainly this is one. We may not have this need again. I would offer that if we're going to have it regularly, routinely, we need to think of you know, how we're going to regularly cover it.
Right.
It is extremely unique. I think that gave us the wiggle room in the event that Danielle would become his regular supervisor. I wouldn't support it.
Okay.
Period. As I said, this may never happen again, and her other power over Derek may be the stronger power to make sure he does a good job, which I'm confident he will.
I just thought it was a
That's not what I was
coincidence
doing.
on the names. That was.
Did you? It's not. Derek came by it naturally, I believe, to the best of my knowledge. It's a tough situation. You know, certainly if we were filling in driving the snowplow, we had a whole different bunch of liabilities.
For this, yeah, I think it's just,
You're gonna go, you're gonna count the cars, you're gonna be there, he's been seen by them at least once. I'm gonna guess he'd be willing
what are
to
the
go
other,
along again.
what are the other options?
I don't know one.
Right.
That's why I brought it to this esteemed body to help guide my decision.
One that comes to my mind is asking the bingo inspector from one of the adjoining municipalities. They may not be willing or able to do that.
I have a big problem with that.
What's that?
Do I go into that?
Probably not.
As long as don't announce the municipality. if
No,
We can do that.
it's more of a concern that, as I said, it's a situation that we're having some issues we're working through with them, and it's become a little bit contentious.
Okay,
And, I mean, that's not our problem, the person that goes in, they'll do what they're supposed to
I think
do.
if she's got approval from the head bingo person in the state, then. I think
Did she
okay.
understand the relationship and everything?
Yeah, she said because it's my stepson, I'm technically not, I was technically not related.
Yeah, she's
I'm
not
related
worried
only
about
through
that.
marriage, it's a marriage thing. In their eyes, I don't know how their body
Yeah.
works, what their, and it might be something set up within their
But she didn't say you
organization.
can't do it, and you can't do it because he's not 47 years old
No.
or any of those other reasons.
and, you know, I agree with you, we're looking at a very rare, unique situation. Probably the only time it might crop up, I'm sure this is one of those things that happened spur of the moment.
It is.
Maybe it was planned from a long time ago, and now you know going forward, you're committed to certain nights.
Yeah,
Okay,
and of course, the objection with another inspector coming in is whether they're actually following the same,
Well, they should be. I
they
mean,
should be,
but
but that's some of
right.
the issues that keep cropping up.
okay.
But that would be our assumption, that they're, I don't think that's a bad decision, but I don't know if it's the best option in this case. My initial was, what would happen if you're on your way and you suddenly become too ill to go in the building?
Mhm.
But obviously, that's not having 2-3 weeks' notice. You know, you wouldn't be able to go, it's that simple. But she has given us notice.
We've never encountered where a bingo inspector couldn't show
Not
up.
that we're aware of.
Okay. That's
I
fine.
think there might be an instance in the last 6 years.
There must have been a few instances where it didn't show at all the years we run bingo.
And it's not just showing, I mean, Danielle's trying to do the job as she was trained. You're there in the beginning, you count the cards, you're there through, you're observing the activities, you're monitoring, you count at the end.
And I'll just be honest with you, my
full
only
game.
gut reaction is, a family obligation is taken your way, isn't he family? At what point does another family obligation take you both away and we're right back here at the table doing the exact same thing again? That'd be my comment.
I just don't think there's any options for this one meeting. I don't think it's that huge a deal anyway, so.
Rick, has our office ever been called to cover for another bingo game in another municipality?
No.
So it's pretty good odds, and they have never, ever, in the history of those towns, ever missed having someone in. Yeah.
I know.
That's the concern.
That's been reported. That's been reported, so.
Did I manipulate that
My first
thought?
option was to have you come, Paul.
No, that's not an option.
That's what I told them too. Nah, I don't like that idea.
Is it on football night?
However, legal counsel might be.
It's against my religion. Or for my religion, or something.
I would think he represents the town elder.
I can remember volunteering for bingo at St. John's, and this was before they came up with a second location, which was initially the non-smoker location. So I was assigned to the smoker location. I went to one again, and I said, I can't do this. I said, there's just no way I can handle this, I'm dying, you know?
Boy, there was all, you could cut the air with a knife, I remember.
When they put the non-smoking, when, of course, this goes back to, you know, I mean, it was done begrudgingly, when they put the non-smoking unit in, they put it, it was the stage. And then down here were the smokers, over the smokers, waffled up over to where the non-smokers.
The first time my mom ever took me to bingo, I won. And
There.
I almost didn't make it out of there, because there's a regular calling for those games, and if you aren't a regular and you won,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you wanna sneak out.
Yeah,
You really
it's,
still use the same tart.
it's an interesting culture.
Oh, yeah.
Same t-shirt, and it still smells.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting culture, but
No, I don't have a problem with it.
we have to make a decision, and like I said, I don't have any alternatives.
I know he's studying criminal justice, and, you know, is he, you know, schooled in self-defense? Some of those people can get up, you know, pretty up and at it.
That was the part, Marty, that helped push me over the edge in this particular situation. He sounds like a hardworking young man. He's in the third semester of criminal justice. Obviously has a goal and wants to, you know, protect the laws. Got a GPA over a 3.0, 2 jobs, volunteering at the South Plattsburgh Fire Department. He certainly is someone who wants to be a community contributor, member of Junior Border Patrol Group. You know,
Can we get him for court security at under $20 an hour?
maybe
Does he understand that he cannot wear a sidearm?
Yeah,
To do this?
So, anyone have any other questions,
No.
concerns, comments? What I'm hearing, Danielle, is it's official.
Okay, with that?
We'll go for it. Train them well.
Thank you.
Let us know how it goes.
I will.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for letting me speak, and thank you very much. And I'd be willing to work on if it were to happen, a better solution.
Well,
Something more, but this serves for the day we know of.
it might still be advantageous to connect with Nate. I don't know who has bingo games in the area anymore. I just don't know.
City still does, Beacontown does, Crew does, Keysville does,
Yeah.
when they don't have a fire.
It would be smart to connect with the clerks in the neighboring municipalities, find out who they have, and find out if they would be willing,
Okay,
and then we'll go from there. Okay?
thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Do we have to do something official to do that?
I am not aware of anything. It's not an appointment. We don't want to do an appointment. We're allowing him to substitute.
I do a resolution, do in a second. and-
Actually, he's going to have, yours comes out of, pay for that comes out of the budget office?
Mhm.
So he's gonna have to do payroll, or mom's gonna give him her check. I don't know how that can best work. That probably wouldn't be too wise,
I don't think
because
that's
of
what.
withholdings and things. We will, thank you, I'm kind of thinking out loud. I was even thinking of the payroll piece in order to put him
Well,
on.
to officially work for the town, he's gotta be employed by this body, so
Yep.
he's gonna get money from us, so.
Do I hear a motion?
So
To be used as an on-call person, is that the way that you want to
I
do it?
think we
Yeah.
should at this point,
Yeah.
on call as needed, and that the bingo inspector will solicit from neighboring municipalities their availability and interest in doing the same.
I'll
Does this mean
second.
that they have to have,
I'll second the motion.
have to go through the scrutiny and
Bingo school.
Not for a one-time, well, yeah, but there's not even a school now.
No, but
no, I'm talking about that, I'm talking
what
about
about a background
employment.
check and all that for employment? Does that do all that? I don't know.
No, I would say no, not in this one, my gosh, for,
He's not touching any vehicles, not touching any cell phones or anything, he's not working with children. Normally we would.
He has I don't know if it's available, he had to do a background check with the sheriff's department for his ride-along.
Yeah.
And his fingerprinting, so he's on file with some legal body.
Yeah. As a full,
So that-
as a regular employee, that would be irrelevant, we'd have to do our own, because we wouldn't be privy to that information
So I
anyway.
didn't know if that would be shared with the town.
That would cost us more than paying him to do it.
No.
I had a motion from Paul, I heard a second,
Right here.
was it
Gerard.
Gerard? And we're having ongoing discussion. That's,
I don't see there, because
that-
he's not
that's
handling any
very
money,
important, thank you.
he's not handling any money for the town, so it shouldn't be.
It's a matter of observing, gathering information, and
That's
recording
it.
it.
As long as he's not handling any money, so.
I
don't see any
just-
problem with it.
I'm just concerned because the payment from the town would be checked, even though it's just one time. And are we going by the,
I don't think we can turn it around that fast. If the group wants, I can try and find out.
I think it's so small that I would just pass a resolution, have them do it, and that's just a one-time thing, and there is, you know.
But we're not passing a resolution for it to be a one-time thing, though, are we? Is that, I mean, I'm I'm of the opinion that we're passing it
On-call
that if she's,
what we're talking about.
Yeah, he could be
Yeah.
employed as
Right,
on an
exactly,
active
so-
basis.
I mean, if
In
it
that
becomes
case,
another
we
day, I
should
mean,
do the
I can't,
background check.
I can't possibly say that I want you to be the bingo inspector every single Sunday, every single day, week for, I mean, that's completely unrealistic for anybody sitting here.
Yeah.
We all go on vacation, that's, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, that's the way it's worded in here,
Right,
to be used as an on-call basis needed.
right.
You'll have to come in and do a background check.
And,
There's a reason we do this, 5 heads are better than one.
Then one, no.
and the same thing, I mean, if she all of a sudden gets sick on a Friday, he's gonna need to step in on a Sunday, I mean, it's gonna be whenever, it's not one time.
Well, and you're right, we're setting up a solution to a problem. Danielle could have an appendicitis tomorrow and she's done for a month. Now what do we do? So, we should do that, and if it's only once, it's once, but we cover all of our potential problems, and if something else comes up, then he's
Oh,
officially
we fix
the
it so she can take a vacation if she wants to or whatever, and not be here.
Okay?
Okay, that sounds good.
And he should do that as soon as he can, because we might be able to turn it around that fast if we request.
Does the bingo inspector have to take an oath of office?
That's a question, Ricky? Is there an oath for the
I'll bet
inspector?
there is,
Art used to.
yeah.
Art-
Did Danielle take one? As
Probably
the
didn't, I just
inspector?
don't remember how to take for vitals,
I'd have, yeah.
I get to go look in the book.
This is what happens really when we don't pull that template up that we normally use and you go through each little, bullet. Which is what I will do to write something that it will include the oath of office within 30 days, get the background check, and in the interim will allow him to do this first one if the background check has not come in time because of the background information we have. It would be wise for him to give us a civil service job application and put on file. We have a social security number and yada, yada, yada. If it's less than 600, 900, 600, he'll have to do his own filing, but we don't know. So we'll load for bear and maybe never use them again, but we're set.
Okay.
Okay, and that way we'll have a file for everything, et cetera.
You have
If
any
he changes his mind because of having those hoops, let me know.
I don't think you
We
will.
need to do that.
Yeah.
It'd be more than appropriate.
That's not a problem.
And I will look at a typical appointment resolution to see if there are any other quirks we've left out.
Are we gonna pay him on a?
I move
per
to table
diem?
the motion.
We're gonna we already have a motion, we have a second, we have to have a vote first time.
I move to
We
table.
would pay him as per the typical payment that the job commands, whatever we're paying Danielle, she would be docked and he would get that salary. Yeah, we can put that in there. At the current rate is really what it should be, because that can change
Per diem.
with that deducted.
Per diem, right, that's correct.
Okay, we had a motion, a second, we're having discussion, any other discussion?
No, are you gonna speak to that,
Well,
One,
well, I think there's a motion on the floor that
We
we
gotta
have.
pass the motion or not?
No.
No.
He
was-
made a motion, he tried to make a motion to table it.
Yeah.
And that takes precedence.
Well, is there a second to Tom's motion?
I don't know why we can't wait 1 week.
And it dies for lack of a second.
Waiting for a week wouldn't really trigger any reason for him to do all the things he has to do.
Okay, so read the motion then.
If he's not, if my, just as for a
We
little
gotta
further
get all these things
discussion,
put
if
in
we
this
don't,
motion, where the heck is the motion?
The motion is to employ Mr. Derek Scholl on an as-needed per diem basis at the rate that exists at the time, provide service with that sum being subtracted from the town's appointed bingo inspector. And a requirement that he complete a civil service application and also submit to a background check.
Have a number?
Take an oath of
Yes,
office.
we need a number on that version.
And take an office, an oath of office within 30 days, the number is gonna be 274. And, I'm gonna support where Tom's concerns are, because this is why we try not to do these things in these
And I don't
conditions.
know, you know, I don't
We
like
discuss them in a
doing
work
it.
session, then we crank them out, and we bring them up.
Well, in my reading of this, if we wait, we table this and we don't take some kind of action to alleviate the problem, we can't expect him to come in and submit to a background check and any of the preliminary stuff that needs to be started. No way, we lose a week on the background check.
Yeah.
We may or may not be able to get a background check done before
I
October
mean, if you could
7th.
order one
Talking
for somebody
5
that
days.
doesn't work for us. We can't order a background check on somebody that doesn't work for us, you have to hire them, and then you do a background
Exactly, so
check.
that's why I'm thinking that we, you know, we go ahead and get the wheels rolling on this, and
Something surfaces, we nullify it.
Ultimately, waiting a week doesn't, I mean, we're still gonna be faced with, we need to hire somebody, and we're only gonna wind up with a week's notice to Danielle that we've got somebody in place for her to take care of her family obligations. I mean, to be fair to her, we just need to do it tonight, say this is good, and if we run into a stumbling block along the way, we'll have to address it.
Hold-
Move the question?
Okay, so we did not have a second on the motion, you're looking Robert's rules up for me, I
I'm just trying to
appreciate it.
prove Marty's wrong, but he's probably right.
No, it doesn't.
I believe he's right.
A motion to second, a motion
All
to
right,
table
don't give
does,
it,
absolutely.
I thought we had to follow through with the
No.
motion on the table
No, I
first,
didn't know.
No.
but it wouldn't make sense, couldn't table it if you pass it, right?
That's
Right. That's right.
So that makes some sense. Any other discussion? We'll do a roll call, Rick, please.
Yep. Thomas Wood,
No,
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul LeMoy,
Yes.
Gerard Renadette.
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, the resolution carries, that's resolution 274, which I will draft as soon as I can. Can't make any promises. Okay,
Absolutely.
Jackie Murray now, welcome. Now we're all warmed up and ready for you.
I don't know what your format is. Is it?
We would love the three of you to pull maybe those three soft chairs back there up, Phil, and join us at the table. This is a work session, and you're welcome to get up and
Oh, okay, thank you.
We have Dick Comey too.
Dick's here?
I'm just gonna say that.
Absolutely.
How you
Yeah.
doing, sir? Good evening.
Good to see you.
I'm hiding in the crowd.
As long as you're always working for the town, you can do it from any position.
Yes. Thanks.
Did everyone, you did get a little packet of some
you wanna share?
information? Good.
Well, thank you for having us at the meeting tonight. My name's Jackie Murray. I'm here on behalf of New York State Electric and Gas. I'm outside counsel to NYSEG. This is Ken Curley. He is with Infinity Engineering, and they are working on preparing the plans and the various analysis required for this project. I do not know if you received the narrative that we prepared to, okay, great,
They did, yeah.
great.
was supposed to be a map or something with this?
I didn't copy the entire packet of stuff.
If you'd like, I have some additional copies of the preliminary site plans.
Tom, this is why I didn't copy it all.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I don't know if I have enough for all.
You'd
four
kill
of
me
them.
if I destroyed that many trees.
We can look on together.
That's not it. Tom, I'll rescind that show and tell. That is not the document you're seeking. It's the next one. But I didn't copy either.
Well, we're here tonight because New York State Electric and Gas currently has a 90-foot pole at their Plattsburgh service center over on Route 22. And they are proposing to ultimately remove that pole and install a new 140-foot pole in order to support a few different functions. What originally precipitated this project was a project that is currently ongoing and pending review before the Adirondack Park Agency, in which NYSEG, Essex County, New York, and the New York State Police are participating. The three entities are creating a shared microwave network. It is a ring system, and I'll give a little bit of detail of that so the board can understand the utility of that project. Basically, they are creating a shared microwave ring whereby all three parties are going to use one set of microwave antennas to support a system that they all share to backhaul their respective radio communications without the need for landlines. The purpose is to increase the reliability of backhauling their radio communications over the system and to avoid having to use landlines. By avoiding the landlines, they avoid the outages that are often when all three of the entities need radio communications the most. Incidentally, they also avoid the cost of the landlines, and they gain control over their own microwave network. This is a project that has been a long time coming on the state and county side in terms of creating their own telephone network, essentially, using these microwave antennas. Each of the three entities that are sharing this cooperative ring will have what I call a spur, a path that is not part of the circle and goes off the circle to their respective operations or dispatch centers. Essex counties, and I represent Essex County, so this is firsthand knowledge from what we're really working on with them. And I represent the state police on that project as well. But Essex County is backhauling their communications from the ring. One of the ring sites is at Belfry Mountain. They go back to their public safety building on Stowersville Road in the town of Lewis. State police goes off the ring from Whiteface Mountain over to Raybrook, where they have one of their troop headquarters. And for NYSEG, the next site off the ring, the ring site is Terry Mountain, and that will go back to the proposed tower at the Plattsburgh Service Center. So that is one purpose of the tower and the need for the tower. What we did include with the narrative is a microwave path feasibility report. It basically shows a line of sight profile from the Terry Mountain Tower, which is an existing, used to be an 890-foot tower. Essex acquired it last June, and they took the top 200 feet off the tower in order to free up structural capacity for their other equipment and for the microwave equipment that's needed for the network. There's a tower, there's a microwave antenna proposed for NYSEG on that site. It's already been approved by the town of Peru. That just occurred last week at the 275-foot level. It would be that antenna for NYSEG that would have a path back to the proposed tower at the service center. So that is one of the three functions for which NYSEG is seeking this tower. The other is a new hydro connectivity project, and this is solely for NYSEG's proprietary system, as is the other, but it's not part of any shared microwave network, such as the microwave path from Terry Mountain. Currently, NYSEG has a hydro facility in Katyville, and they are proposing to create a microwave link from Katyville back to the Plattsburgh Service Center, again, in order to backhaul, in this case it would be data communications from sensors and monitoring devices that they want to install at the hydro plant. The hydro connectivity project is yet another initiative of NYSEG in order to modernize their utility facilities. At other facilities where they have grid work, they're installing sensors and remote devices so that they can actually control and monitor the facilities remotely. Currently, NYSEG does not have that capability, which is somewhat, I was surprised to learn that, and they have to send personnel out in the field in order to gather data about the health of their utility delivery systems. By installing these new sensors and monitoring devices and backhauling the product of those devices from the hydro facility back to the Plattsburgh Service Center, they will be able to gather real-time data as to what is really happening at the hydro facility and its
You were at that
security.
meeting with me, weren't you, Jim Sullivan, when they said the real-time data was in 8 minutes, Morrisonville would be underwater
Right.
if the dam.
Okay.
Jackie, also, you know, that SCADA system, these gentlemen are all
challenge,
familiar
yeah.
with the SCADA system because we use it for our own.
Oh, okay.
We-
Okay.
So we're familiar with that.
Okay, well, that's what that's essentially what they're proposing to do via the link from the proposed tower to Katyville. Currently, again, we only have a microwave path feasibility report. The next step in documenting the minimum height needed for the antenna pads from the service center to Terry Mountain and the service center to Katyville is to have the vendor of the microwave system go out and do an in-field survey of conditions. What I presented to you with the narrative was really to get our foot in the door and open this dialogue at the earliest possible juncture so that we can start working together. The feasibility reports, in my experience, are generally close. Sometimes they're right on, sometimes they're not. And it really is that in-field survey that will document the minimum height that they need in order to make the pads for those two microwave dish antennas. That is one of the reasons why you'll see in these drawings, we did not include a tower elevation drawing yet, because it would truly be speculative. What we put in the narrative is based only on those reports, and we're going to do more work in order to nail down what we need to demonstrate our minimum height. With microwave systems, after that field survey occurs, the vendor of the system will actually provide NYSEG with a warranty as to the path, that path will work. They generally build in some room for tree growth, so you will see that in the survey report. That they'll say, you know, the average tree canopy is 60 or 70 feet. We want them to be 80 feet above or 90 feet above, whatever the case may be. But you'll see that in the microwave survey report as well. Once we have that data, we obviously will provide it to the town's consultant, Mr. Comey, as well as to the board with the tower elevation drawing. Now, the third function to be served at this site is to remove the land mobile radio antennas that are currently on that 90-foot pole at the service center and add them to this new tower structure and consolidate everything at a single site. We did have, from my perspective, a productive site visit today. Mr. Comey was helpful in making comments about reorientating the equipment compound so that we can use the area that really just consists of some brush as opposed to areas where trees that provide screening would have to be removed. We also discussed the need for a balloon test and a possible scheduling of the balloon test. Mr. Van Bargen and Mr. Cole are going to provide us with a list of some viewpoints that are important for us to analyze during that balloon test. In addition, the code requires that we publicly notice the balloon test 14 days in advance and 7 days in advance. We're obviously trying to get out there as soon as possible, and so my understanding is that the Press Republican needs me to give them a notice to publish 3 days in advance of when it'll actually be published. So if I do that tomorrow, then we're looking at getting the notice in on Friday, and we were shooting for October 13th, which is a Saturday.
Best that it not be a Friday.
What's that?
Best that it not be a Friday.
Yeah, well, the code requires that we do it on a weekend if the initial date works. Otherwise, we're allowed under the code to go to a weekday if that's an alternate date due to inclement weather conditions. So at this time, I wanted to see if that balloon test schedule seems like something that's amenable to the board.
Any concerns, Dick? Nope. That's Saturday is according to the code. It's the right thing to do. They've already talked about having the blimp, which is the right size balloon. So, and Phil said he was going to be there. So
Phil going up?
I'm actually gonna go for a bike ride that day, so.
with him being
well.
over there, there's really
Weather dependent.
no reason for me to come up for that balloon test. I mean, I don't wanna do anything that's
to the sky
duplicate.
with the
There's
bike.
no reason for it. He and I will discuss to make sure that, and they know they have to do 4 consecutive hours out of the 8-hour day. Saturday scheduled. If inclement weather, they can reschedule for a weekday for the code. But the schedule is on a Saturday so that people that both sides of the family work will be able to see it, because there are, and we've got to have a few more discussions, but there are a couple of subdivisions, that I call them subdivisions, on both sides of 22 that probably will have some visuals for this.
Trevor and I, after our last site visit, we took a spin around the area, looking at different vantage viewpoints, and have a list of those, and we'll provide them.
So that'll take care of it. That's the perfect way to do it on a Saturday, et cetera.
Okay.
I think some other, relevant points to make about the proposal too is that, first of all, obviously the proposal is not for wireless telecommunications purposes, it's for, it's in order to support NICEAG's proprietary communications and backhaul of data.
That's a question I had, and I highlighted in your letter, the proposal that it would also be designed to support future co-locations, and I was gonna ask such as.
It would be available to any potential user that can get a permit from the board to co-locate on it and can make it useful from a technological perspective. There are a lot of different layers. The point of the comment was to let the board know that NICEAG will allow co-location if a co-locator comes along and is permitted by the town to co-locate on the facility, and if it's feasible from a technological perspective. In that regard, NICEAG also offers up the facility to the town to use on a complimentary basis if it has a need to currently or in the future install public safety or public service communications equipment. And that's what they generally do at all of their sites.
What about other commercial carriers?
If they came along, they would make the site available, but again, it's subject to getting a permit from your board. So I would suspect that they'd have to go through all of the requirements to prove that that's the site that they would need. But that's in the board's discretion. With wireless siting, there's always two components. You need the landowner to make the site available.
Right.
You need the town to give you a permit.
And so what that does though is that the way that local law is written is that we got a hierarchy of locations to start from. Dick, this would add to that list.
Absolutely.
That says now, under our co-location requirements, there's a new structure. So the first crack is our public structures that you have to co-locate or at least work through the process on. We've been very successful in getting those cellular entities located on town facilities.
But
Now we
this
now
new
have-
facility gonna be a lot higher than any town facility?
No.
Oh, not?
How high are-
point
Well, there would be no advantage of putting it on this one as opposed to a town
Oh,
facility?
it depends on where they need to cover.
Yes.
It's a coverage issue. And what you'll have now is another structure already there that after they prove they can't use town facilities because of where they gotta cover, then you go to other tall structures, and you've got this one that they're building strong enough, which precludes putting up more towers. Somebody just can't walk in and say, I want one 500 feet from this.
We don't want towers all over the town.
That's,
Point of
Where's the
reference.
closest tower of this size?
oh mercy.
Well,
What's
one
the
of the
height of
things that-
Hammond, Hammond's water tank, for a point of reference?
Oh my goodness.
That's gotta be.
170? Is it that tall?
What?
The Hammond Lane Tower?
Maybe the top antennas, yeah. Somewhere.
Possibly 170. Okay.
Yeah, but Hammond Lane, you're talking a distance of, what am I gonna guess, 5-6 miles?
3, 4.
Is it?
No,
From
I can
Nice
tell you,
Edge to-
I lived around the corner, I lived around the corner, it was 9 miles to Bluff Point. So if you went to NICEAG's property from where I lived, that was a little more than halfway. So I think your estimate of
Well,
5 miles.
let's put it this way, it's more than 3, I believe. And that means that if they needed coverage in that part of the town or on the Northway down
Or that
there,
part of Peru.
or Peru, which
Schuyler
is
Falls.
right next to it.
Skylar Falls
Because
has a
if-
tower approved
Well-
just outside of, but again, it gets down to different carriers located
Well,
different
I'm
locations.
not sure how many of the board members were here back about 10 years ago when they tried to put a tower just in the town property line, just to the east of the Northway, right there by the McDonald's sign that's out in the middle of the field. And even the county said no to it, and it was turned down by the board at that time. Well, this would preclude needing something like that ever coming back to you again, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Because it would be in that same coverage zone.
Yes, yes,
Does NICEAG own the property that you're intending to
Yes.
put the tower on?
yes.
Yes.
because the town also owns property, I would guess, in a straight line within half or a quarter of a mile from there, the other side of the river. We bought property to put a sewage treatment plant. I'm just wondering if that property might suit your needs just as well.
I'd have to see where the
Part of
property
the
is,
issue that
but
they're
we have
looking
to hardline. Oh, I'm
to,
sorry.
part of the issue that they're looking to try to have control over is the fiber optic line that runs from the tower to their ops center. And in this particular case, they'll shorten the distance, it'll be all on their property, there'll be nobody else digging in the area that potentially could go ahead and encroach upon this fiber optic line that runs from the antenna to their location.
Right. I'm just trying, I'm, in my mind, I'm going over our telecommunications law, and I believe that one of the things was town property for siting of towers. And unless you could show that that piece of property could in no way meet your needs, it's something that the board has to consider.
That's true.
Could I
Absolutely, I agree with you. I just didn't know there was another piece of town
Yeah.
property right down,
That's
where,
why-
about where is it?
It's
Well,
over by the
It's right along
Saranac River
87,
overpass
but
on
on the
87.
north side of the Saranac River. So it's in line with where they're putting it, but just on the north side of the Saranac River as opposed to the south. As a crow flies, quarter to mile.
Maybe.
Well, we've also got property, the rec area, off,
By the
Robert
Speedway,
Road.
by the airport Speedway.
But with the, there's a certain amount of footage you have to with the tower, 140 foot plus whatever, as in case the tower ever came down. There are residences over there also that you would have to be concerned with as far as the park. Whereas where the sewage treatment plant was proposed, the property that we acquired out there, there's nothing there.
Can you show me where that is?
I don't mean.
But to get the fiber optic cable across the river.
Yeah.
That,
And the
you know,
northwest.
that's something that we may have to consider, but I'm just telling you that if, as a board member, I have to look at what our law states, I'm gonna be taking a look at that.
What we will need to do anyway, our application, I'm happy to raise that because I wasn't aware of the town property.
Yeah, I don't wanna blindside you with something
Well,
6
no,
months from now.
I appreciate that, but that's fine, I'm so happy we're
Okay.
having a work session because one of the things that I've run into in my experience is that if we don't sit down like this and get these types of comments out, 6 months from now, I will be addressing that, and it's a very fair
Sure.
question.
Sure.
So knowing the town properties, that the town would like reviewed in advance is helpful, because what we ultimately will do is submit to you a narrative application that goes through each section of your telecommunications law and states how we address it. And one of
Okay.
the sections is, you have a order of priority.
Mhm.
We're in the C zoning district, I think it's number 4, in order of
Yeah.
priority. So I gotta tell you why 1 through 3 don't cut it.
Yeah.
And knowing a specific location of town property that could fall within number 1 is important.
Okay.
So is that something, that could I get the
Yep.
tax map from?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
And I know you don't wanna reroute your fiber optic, but there is piping underneath the river. We put 2 pipes, I believe, underneath it when we ran water, 2 sleeves, so there's an easy opportunity to pass the fiber optic from one side to the other. It's a matter of distance.
What about fire district property? Is that really technically town property
Yes,
in a fire district?
I mean, it's a municipal kind of,
Well, you got property right next door in South Plattsburgh Fire Station and right up on the very top of the hill. The tallest point in South Plattsburgh is behind their fire station.
If it's town property. I don't know if it's town property.
I don't think it is, but,
I don't know.
The fire
if it-
district is a different political subdivision.
yeah.
I can tell you that.
We have nothing, we have no control
Ambulance
to
district's
accept the budget they
different
propose.
issue, but fire districts are separate municipal corporations.
Worth finding out, as you say now, rather than 6 months from now, that had to also be in play.
I had a different question when we were talking about the 3 entities that are collaborating on this. Has Clinton County been invited to be party to this?
We have worked with Eric Day at Clinton County, Essex County, the Emergency Service Director at Essex County is Don Jaquish.
Mhm.
And Don Jaquish, Eric Day, and myself have all worked together on this project. Currently, Clinton County has an antenna at Terry Mountain.
Oh.
And they also have an antenna, I believe, at Palmer Hill and Randville. Yeah, and there's one at Palmer Hill as well. And they have not gotten into the shared microwave network, but they are going to be participating in a county consortium. There's 7 counties in the North Country that are all getting together to create a consortium. Once you create a consortium, then you can get funding from Homeland Security. You're not eligible for the funding unless you're part of at least a 2-county consortium. So currently there's 7. Clinton's one of the 7 with Essex and 5 others. So Eric has been participating with us all along because he needed to continue with his infrastructure that he has in place. So he is, to answer your question, he's aware of it.
Thank you.
So Clinton, the interesting thing here, I don't know if you picked up on, Terry Mountain Tower used to be Channel 5's tower, is now Essex County's tower.
Channel 5 is in Vermont.
Channel 5 leases off of Clinton County, or
They
Essex
currently
County.
lease from Essex County.
Oh, that was okay.
As a joke.
Essex
Poor
purchased the
attempt
tower
at a
last
joke
June
nonetheless.
from Hearst Argyle stations. WPTZ Channel 5 still maintains equipment at the site, but the other users at Terry Mountain are Essex County, of course, with the shared microwave system, which the system itself is going to be owned by state police, the actual microwave antennas, and they have a very unique partnership. I think it's something that we're going to see mimicked elsewhere in the state because it makes a lot of sense. You have one set of antennas using one plane of vertical real estate for 3 parties. And additional parties can join in because there's enough megabytes on the system to join more public safety or critical infrastructure entities. In the Adirondack Park in particular, it's really a feather in their cap because you're not using up 3 planes for one system. So all of a sudden you reduce the need for additional
Avoid the
cell towers.
Frankenpines.
Yeah, I worked on Frankenpine. I personally worked on that, and it was nothing like the photos that the Adirondack Council published in the Press Republic. And I gave them the real photos.
In this case, I know of one very good one, Bert. There's an outstanding Frankenpine by Lake George.
That's it, on Pilot Knob.
On the east side at Pilot Knobs. You can walk through those woods and get from here to that door, and you can't tell it's a pole.
As the original
Because
Frankenpine.
that's what it was called originally. And we were involved in it and so forth. I mean, literally, going through the woods, they put the bottom of the pole bark type stuff on it so it doesn't look just like a steel pole. It's got bark on the pole at the bottom.
I saw one in Phoenix that was, same thing, I literally walked under it. When I got within 3 or 4 feet, this tree doesn't look right. And I realized this tree is not a tree.
They can do a better job than they did when they first started. The worst one in New York State that I know of is on 88.
Yeah, Bainbridge.
You got it.
I call it the toilet brush.
It looks just like a toilet brush. If you go driving down 88 and it just stands right out there, it's atrocious.
Yeah, no, we worked on Frankenpine from day one, and I'll tell you this because I think it's hilarious, but the opponents started calling me the bride of Frankenpine.
Not nice.
That was one of the nicer things they said to me.
Depending on how this goes, we could call you other things.
Let's not get too creative.
But as I think you're well aware, Dick has become our counsel, and the expert in telecommunications representing us. He's done a fine job. So as long as you keep Dick happy, you will probably see things go forward.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit now that we've done the site visit. We scheduled that tonight so we didn't have to do 2 travel trips for both of us. Like I said, the balloon test, I don't need to be here. In terms,
excuse me, what size balloon are we talking?
About 6 feet. A blimp.
It's going to be a blimp.
It's going to be a
Yeah,
blimp.
it won't be a weather balloon, it'll be a blimp.
It actually is a blimp that will be up in the air. It's got fins on it, so it helps it actually stay
where it
level and
should
track
be.
in the wind. So if you do get a gust of wind, it doesn't lay down.
And since these are proposed 6-foot microwave dishes, it's hence the 6-foot blimp. But to be able to see something of the same size from the distance.
What kind of
It's not going to be sky blue, is it?
what kind of lettering will be on this? What sort of IDs?
What would you like?
Vote for Bernie.
Oh, wait a minute, he's not running anymore. Come on.
We still would want that.
Well, we default to Goodyear.
Nothing.
Nothing, no.
Nothing at all.
It's just a red blimp
Red blimp.
with yellow fins on it.
And I don't know how familiar.
It's not something that's being used to do the study, or?
It's something that we have at the A&E firm that we use in-house to do these studies, because we've done them all throughout.
Because
Northeast
I'm
New
thinking
England.
something on it might help diffuse some concern, you know?
It's bright red, so that way everybody can drive around, and we're going to publish notice of the balloon test in the newspaper.
Well, I'm sure
as well.
everybody will see it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, so it's really a helpful tool, because
Oh, I'm sure.
often there's people that think, they hear cell tower, and they automatically think it's going to impact me. And in reality, there's a lot of misconceptions that are dispelled when we do balloon tests, and where we can take out the photographs and
There
say,
will be
look,
a report.
we were in your neighborhood, and it wasn't that visible, or only the top 10 feet was
So
visible.
someone will do shots from various
Yes.
points in residential areas, playgrounds, whatever.
Yes, what we do is we will take a zone of visibility map.
Good.
And start with the areas that will be visible based upon topography. And of course, we estimate into a vegetative cover. And then we drive around those areas to narrow it down and discern which areas there's potential for visibility. And then you actually take physical field shots to see if that potential visibility is real or not.
And those photos will be available to us?
Yes, yes, and what we will do then in consultation with the town and with Dick is determine which viewpoints require a photo simulation to be rendered. And then from those viewpoints, we'll actually do a 3D software model, not me, Ken's shop, but they'll create a 3D model that will put a tower into the picture. It's different than superimposing it. It's not superimposed.
Tangible concrete desktop model or a
It's
digital model?
Digital.
It's a digital.
Basically, we'll scale off of the blimp, and they'll use that and drop in an actual tower into the photo of what it will look like with the equipment that NISA's proposing for the.
There might be some value to the project and to the town. The notice that you're going to be putting in the local newspaper, if I could get that, we could have that also posted on our town's webpage, on the homepage. And, it's another effort to make people aware that this is taking place and why.
Would the town like to have a draft of it before we actually publish it? Or?
I would like to see it,
Okay.
yes, please,
Could have that.
for the language.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Well,
thinking.
for the language standpoint too, there's certain things, and then we'll run that by you folks, for you, Myrnie, to make sure that there's no language that's inappropriate, or your attorney or whomever, before it gets published.
Sure.
That's always the best way to do it, to make sure everybody has
Absolutely.
seen what it says and how it's saying it and so
It's
on.
gonna happen very quickly, because in order to do this for the actual 13th, October 13th, the notice in the press is, the 3-day lead time, so this will be
We'll do it
happening
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yes.
and what I think would be, I actually like the idea of the website, because if we do have a rain date, thank you. If we do have a rain date, could we then say, visit the website for a rain date in what we publish in the paper?
Sure.
Okay, because that
Well,
would,
you can actually put in the announcement the rain date.
That would be advantageous.
You can
is-
put
is
both of them in there,
Yeah.
scheduled for
The
Saturday,
event,
October
inclement weather prevents-
13th, in case of inclement weather that precludes us having to cancel this, it will be rescheduled for Tuesday, whatever, the 16th, et cetera, something like
You
that.
mean
my
a
concern is
tornado or
we have
something?
multiple rain dates.
Right.
Because that happens, 'cause it's not only rain, it's wind.
15 days into it.
And if you put it in the event of inclement weather, there will be a rain date.
Yeah,
Is
maybe
it
that's
possible
the
So
that-
post it on your
Doesn't matter,
website.
Is it
Maybe
possible to reference in the public notice that the rain date will be listed on the town's website?
The concern I have about that is the deluge of phone calls we might get from people who don't have a computer. If it's in the paper And
Oh, it has to
the
be
bu-
both and all.
I understand that, but if check the town's website for future rain, for the rain date or what. Once you put in there, contact the town, we'll get flooded with phone calls.
Well, Phil's in charge of weather, so we don't have.
Yeah, we'll put Phil's phone number down.
Home number.
Well, then maybe the language is something to the effect of the
Or we
local
have
media
full-
outlets, including the town of Plattsburgh's
Get the,
website.
I wouldn't have a problem with
Like
including, but
mounted,
to single us out,
Okay.
I think we'll be deluged with phone
Uh,
calls.
Hometown Radio 1340 is famous for all those little 30-second,
We
You
really
know.
wanna put that on?
they'll do it right away.
Well, my concern is that we publish notice, we don't have adequate notice of a rain date, and then we're 2 weeks out again.
Sure, that can happen.
So I like the idea that we'll have some alternate place in the event that even the rain date that we publish doesn't work out because of wind or whatever.
So what about the,
We don't have that.
the airport, and have you checked all that as far as?
Do we have did we already do the FAA consultation?
We have to file with the FAA
Yeah.
to do an FAA determination, and they will let us know if that location will need to be lit or if there's any issues with that height in accordance to the airport's flight patterns.
What kind of light would you have on this?
It would be an FAA,
They dictate.
basically beacon that's approved by FAA.
Probably same as our water towers, I would guess.
Boy, the one on
Well-
Bluff Point is ugly as sin.
If I remember correctly, because of Bluff Point, the
Checkerboard square?
no, the
Flight pattern.
the flight pattern is north to south.
Yes.
The landing pattern, this is off to the west,
Right.
and therefore the cone based on where it is, I'm
Should be out.
pretty secure that but we do get a report. It's not over the 200 feet, so from that standpoint, there's no light required. It seems like you normally get hit when you're in the runway direction rather than off to the side. So but there is a report on that, sir, that will be part of the application.
And the property that you're putting this and building it, and you have the barbed wire around and everything, how far is that from the nearest property owner, other than yourself?
The surrounding property, the property that we're on is owned by NICEAG, and the abutting property to the right is owned by NICEAG, and the property abutting it behind it is leased by NICEAG. So all the property other than the fire
We
station.
have a survey here that I think
Okay.
has.
The South Plattsburgh Fire Station is a neighboring.
And LTS is across Archie Bertle Road, so this is Archie Bertle Road right here, this is LTS right here, it takes up the whole corner.
There will be vegetation or something
Right here,
between all this, right?
yep, there's vegetation.
Well, I see that, I haven't seen the whole,
Yeah,
Right,
those
wherever
trees
you're building
are
this.
70 plus feet tall now. They're all
well, it's
around.
not just 70+ feet, I want vegetation there that, you don't have to look at a barbed wire fence.
Well, it's
Well, the
it's
barbed
there.
wire fence isn't gonna be that high.
That's all there currently though.
Yes.
That's all currently at the site.
We were out there
Yeah.
today.
You won't see any of
Far
this from
enough
anybody.
back, you will not see the barbed wire from any direction, you won't see the base, from most of the directions, you won't see the bottom 50 feet
Right.
of the structure. You might be able, if you were on the NICEAG road heading in,
Right, going
to
to the
be able
service
to
center.
see part of less than 50 feet, but even from there, you will not be able to see the building that's gonna be there or anything else. That's why we went out there today, to make absolutely certain of that. And it's a very good question, but we always look at the screening, but this one doesn't require it for sure.
As far as isolation, I would say it's a pretty good site.
Sure.
What we did do, and Jackie mentioned it, when we were out there, they were talking about an 80 by 80, which is the right dimensions for the compound. If you put the tower right in the middle of it, you gotta take some trees down. So we talked about, let's
Offsetting it.
offset the compound so you don't have to take the trees down. And they've agreed to look at that, because there's no sense you don't need to take trees down. There's enough other shorter vegetation.
It's easier from a constructability perspective
Yeah.
too, the
Right.
less,
For everything.
the less that we
Yeah.
have to remove.
And basically NICEAG, they want to limit their impact and their footprint going into any of these sites, just because, there's no need to it.
Yeah, they're different than a tower company. You know, a tower company wants to max out everything so that they can have as many users as possible. While they're amenable to co-location, that's not their business.
Right.
It's much different.
Good, it's good to hear.
Jackie, can you speak to schedule a little bit?
Yeah. Well, we've been tasked with trying to get this project permitted and break ground before the end of the year. I am the first to admit that that is a very aggressive schedule. I'm being upfront with the board, but that's what we were told by New York State Electric and Gas. I know when we stepped foot before you, so I'm sensitive to that, and but that's what we've been tasked with. You know, obviously, we have to comply with the law. We don't want any permit that is not defensible, and we need to comply with seeker. So we've got our work cut out for us, and we also need to provide you all the materials that you need to do a meaningful review. We're gonna do our best to get to that finish line, but I'll be the first to admit that that's a very aggressive schedule.
Do you anticipate any problems or concerns from any other public service agencies, utilities?
No, I expect that from that vantage point, this is going to be welcome. The NYSEG electricity delivery system constitutes critical infrastructure from a homeland security perspective. There's 17 categories of infrastructure. Energy is one of them, and that is pursuant to 2007 Act of Congress. It's actually part of the Patriot Act too. But in any event, I expect that, you know, this type of improvement to their systems is going to be welcomed. You know, state police is well aware of it, as they're a partner with NYSEG in the Essex County project, and I can't anticipate that we have any opposition from any other public safety or public service entity, because it's only going to enhance the utility services that already needs.
So it's the next step relative to your position.
Bernie, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You brought up.
I'll defer to our consultant.
It's a good answer.
You brought up the issue, and I agree, of the town property. We're talking about having to go in the paper this Friday for the balloon test. But no one has looked at that town property, Jackie, to see if that's appropriate. Do we want to do a balloon test on where they're proposing, and then come back and find out maybe the town property does work, and they got to approach the town for that property?
Have to do another balloon test, I guess.
I gotta, in my own opinion, the town property, the only people who are going to be affected, by a balloon or the cell tower, are people on 87. Because it's far enough away, you know where I'm talking about, Marty, it's far enough away from any residential properties that nobody's going to be impacted by that.
Is it right on the river?
Just off the river ground, but we own enough property, it would not be, it wouldn't have to be on the river, but that's all, it's all woodland.
Trail?
No, there's no need for it to impact our trail. Again, there's enough property there.
The only thing.
Benny Blake Road?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that, again, not knowing exactly where the site is, there may be, and NYSEG would have to show this, a technological reason why they cannot make the fiber that long, and I don't mean money, I mean technology-wise.
Exactly.
From that standpoint, and based on the fact that they're putting fiber back to their site, boy, they gotta come up with a real good reason, because fiber doesn't have a great deal of resistance the way copper and others do. So.
But Dick, correct me if I'm wrong, a balloon test is very easy to put together. If they do a balloon test at their proposed location, and then have to turn around and do another balloon test at the town's property, it's a small thing compared to the other hurdles they're gonna have to make.
No, I'm just saying, I just wanted to put it out there. Do you want to even do the first one? What's the board's?
We're not doing it, period.
No,
That's
what's the
nothing.
opinion on having one and then go back and tell people we changed our mind?
Yeah, very good point.
We're going to town
I
property.
don't see any negative ramifications to go back and say we discovered
That's
something
fine.
better.
That's fine. And it
It's a balloon test.
and it
We're not
generates
spraying
some
the
money for the
fields.
town where we can,
Name of the game.
yeah, oh, it is, absolutely.
While they have the balloon in Plattsburgh, why don't they just do both sites at the same time, same day?
Yeah.
An empty sanitary sewer service all the way down to the river here. And this is where we cross the Saranac River with our water main, and we've got that extra boring for the sanitary sewer. Are you guys here overnight?
No, I was heading back, yeah.
Back to,
Back to Clifton Park.
Oh, a piece of cake. I'll just pick you up and have you back here in an hour and 45 minutes.
It's gonna snow tonight.
Hour and a half. I'm not going down the Benny Blake Road in the dark.
No, I bet he gets there anymore.
Mine are kids still parked down
The
there.
red, where the red dot is,
That's right there.
that's where you're, and that orange piece is yours, town property,
Yeah, it's orange,
well,
colorblind, so.
whatever color it is.
Yeah.
And
The
then you've
property
got
we
something
have,
that goes down to here
yeah.
and gets you across the river.
Right.
Yeah.
So the,
So you have to get down to here.
no,
Yeah.
you have
Well,
to get,
you know, this is what's really unfortunate is that, you know, this is the state corridor right there for I-87.
There are a lot of
Issues that Jerry was
variables
raising
that we
about
we're
the
gonna have to
room
look
you
at.
have to leave for the tower.
Because there's also the
Right.
microwave path.
Right.
We'd have to
you'd
run
have to
all new
find a way
microwave
to
paths
get
from there and,
From here to here.
from there to Terry
Well,
Mountain
they've
and
got
from
it
there to
down
Katy
here.
Hill.
They
One
said.
item that
So-
was also proposed was video
Where's our
monitoring,
scale? Was
which
my guess
we
off as
couldn't
far as
serve
half a mile?
that function, a video monitoring camera on
This
a tower
property
that's a
owner
half a
right
mile
here,
away. I think Phil
right on
mentioned
the
apparent
property
utilities.
line is, you know, available. I mean,
there are no
So
utilities.
it's way off.
No
I was
utilities.
About 4 miles away.
about 4
Oh,
miles
it's
away.
4 miles.
Okay.
no, no, from here to
Okay.
here.
Right? Is this,
I,
I'm sorry, is that?
Well, it's more, you gotta go through this though, Jerry, you know, that's the process, it's an iterative process
That's
of looking at, you know, what are the options.
That's a mile for,
The whole distance.
But as Jerry brought up, unfortunately, if that is in the law, you do have
Mile
to
and a half.
discount
Mile
it
and a
and
half.
it's not being
Jackie
viable.
But
mentioned
again,
it.
I agree.
you've
Somebody's
already
gonna
got
throw it
stuff
at us
for
in
about
6
half
months,
of
then
that.
you're in trouble.
No, and what we do
Yeah.
is we go through each section of the law
Sure.
and address it.
Right.
For whatever the reasons
I
are.
mean,
So how far is
it's
that?
about a mile and a
Mile
half.
and a
Yeah.
And about a half a mile of that down to and across the river, they've already done some
Right.
stuff. Phil was talking about the property owner, that's a good portion of it.
Schluter.
He knows that's available, type of thing, so, I'm not saying it's easy, or I'm not saying we don't, but it doesn't look to be impossible unless there's a technological reason, which there might be, why their equipment will not accept that kind of fiber relevant to it, but, because there is, well, is there not, between you and me, or between them?
What?
These are town roads, right?
No,
No?
no, this is right here, but that section right there, is an abandoned town road.
Right.
That right there, I don't know what that is.
My point is, if you had to go by town road rather than personal property, could you not go this way, down here?
Well, you know
You're
what you
almost
got,
to
you
their
got this,
place.
this is the railroad tracks too.
Right. But what's this road?
That's the railroad track.
Oh, that's a railroad track.
Yeah.
We know how easy they
Okay.
are.
Well, it's something, by your code, it's something requires looking at,
right.
okay? Now, I guess there's a concurrence, there's no reason to delay the scheduled balloon test at the site we're talking about.
The only reason I think to delay that is if the project didn't want to duplicate in the event this other site.
Right, that's a
turns-
risk we'll have to address with NYSEG, and if they're willing to bear that risk, then we go forward tomorrow
Right.
noticing the balloon
Yeah,
test.
I don't know what the cost of the test is.
I think that's a minimal cost compared to what we're asking them to consider, but I think we have to ask them to consider.
We do.
If you advertise the date, why not do the balloon test at both sites?
Something
Same
we
day.
have to, you know, we have to go to NICEAG, can't just say yes for them.
Right.
Well,
Because we gotta.
And you
find
don't
out.
have a height,
But
At the
that's
other
the thing
site,
with the other
you
side,
know,
we don't know what the path would be or
Right.
anything. so
anything like that, so.
There's a
You're-
lot of variables that go
capture all
You were
into
that.
saying you'd have to literally have calculated a path from there to
Terry and
the
to
Terry Mountain
Katyville.
site.
And, look at the propagation for the land mobile radio antenna.
the elevation of the site,
Yeah,
where it's at.
there's a lot of variables that go
Right.
into it.
Right.
I-
It could be in
To me, the
wetlands,
threshold issue is
How much lower?
whether
Can't be that much. 10 feet.
we can go a mile and a half away
Do you
from
know
the
if there's
service
any
center
wet,
that we're trying to
the
back up to,
property's dry, is it
whether
wet?
that's
Oh, yeah.
As
feasible.
far as environmental?
And that's gonna be the threshold question.
The-
If
the-
the
well, the
answer to
last
that
None of
is
us know
no,
the property, so that's all.
for a technological reason,
take a look
end
at
of
it.
story.
Yeah.
If the answer to that is
Yeah,
yes,
yours-
then we
the
start
town was
looking
at
at the
one
other
point planning
variables
to
that
put
go
in
into
A sewer
designing the
plant
That
system.
would be question number one.
Yes.
Somebody from the town must do something.
And I have to defer to their radio engineer.
Generally speaking, when you're talking microwave, that even if it's a few feet lower, it's simply a matter of a few feet higher at that end where the dish is at. Is all you need. You must have direct line of sight for the microwave. And then there's a path below that of which you can't have trees within also. So that's what they provide, and that's what's necessary. But when you're talking, this, the thing that I would say that's very much a plus relevant to this is we're not talking RF emissions like we do with cellular. Okay? There are, it's just a point to point. There is no emissions going out, so, you know,
But there could be at some point,
Like a
right?
laser beam?
it's pinpoint. It's,
No, but there could be emissions going out at some point if somebody.
but then they gotta go back in front of the board.
Yeah, right.
In terms of that
Right.
issue, and that's part of the code, yes, at that time, but for
Right
the
now.
application that's in front of the board, there is no RF emission issue.
Okay.
You know, that would have to be addressed if and when it occurs. And they will, without any problems, make the tower strong enough to comply with the number of carriers that are required under the code that's supposed to be there. None of the tower people, including NICEAG, have a problem with that.
Right.
They understand wanting to minimize the number of towers.
Right, it's already designed, because Dick and I have talked about it before this meeting, the need that if we are designing it to revision G standards, which revision G is the structural standard prescribed by the American Standards National Institute and the Telecommunications Industry Association. They also prescribe revision F, which was the last generation that is still in the building code of New York State. Under revision G, they have structural classifications, and Dick had specified that the facility should be built to structural classification 3. I confirmed with NUDCORP that it is designed to structural classification 3, which builds in, I believe it's a 15% buffer, because it's used to support quote-unquote essential services, critical infrastructure.
We're having some of the tower companies that don't want to, on their existing towers, when they add another carrier, to do it under the new standard structure 3, because they may have to reinforce it somewhere. And we're having some discussions, and they're trying to tell us that cellular is not an essential service. And I say, that's fine, just give us a letter from all the carriers that say their service is not essential. And not one carrier will give us such a letter.
The trend is to go under.
But here those are not the issues. Structurally, it'll be fine. It'll take care of all of that kind of stuff. It'll meet the compliance of the code. But I do think that you know, looking at this other property, to see what would be required, because that is the requirement within the code to do it, especially if, based on that map, there are 0 homes within a further distance, it becomes a lesser aesthetic issue also. So
Depending on the height for the path though as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, you gotta,
look at
there's
it,
things
because
you gotta
there's
look
so
at.
many issues, there's so many variables to look
Right.
at in assessing an alternate.
For what it's worth, NICEAG has at least expressed to us in the field that they're not really courting anybody, and they're not interested in anybody else going on that tower. But under our regulations, it needs to be considered for co-location in the future.
And
They're
see,
only a vice presidential, the vice president's whim away from changing that position.
Good point, Mark.
what, that it can't be done?
No, that they're not
They've
interested.
changed their,
Why wouldn't they be?
I know, local guys
I
aren't
prefaced
interested,
that
they
with-
don't want the other people on their tower.
well, I
But
did. we-
headquarters could change their opinion.
This
on
was,
that.
this was not a local NICEAG guy, this was,
Peter from Rochester, Peter
Yeah.
Streets
It's
and
actually
he's their
from-
lead engineer.
Generally speaking, the local people do not want somebody on there because They don't get anything out of it, the local people don't, okay, in terms of the money. Where the corporate can get the rent, they're saying, well, wait a minute, why don't we make some money? And they're all over the state and everywhere and can do it, but that's the philosophy. By the way, okay, long time ago, we had the same issue with the water district right here in this community, folks, okay? That was long before your present water organization, whatever. The concern was, what does the water district get out of putting these equipment at our compound? And we run into that all the time. And, you know, it has worked out very nicely, and the revenue stream has been nice in terms of what's happening and so forth. I know we're still discussing Bluff Point here, but we're getting there, I think, slow. You know, that we're having some discussions on that, but that's a whole other topic. But this one is a lot of the questions that are here in terms of the generation, in terms of the need. We will absolutely take a look that we can minimize or keep it as short as absolutely possible, that will work and get the guarantee of the line of sight. Because the first question I've got is, you know, if you're at 290 feet over there on the mountain, and you got 690, what if you went to 400 or 450 on the mountain? Does that allow you to save 20 feet at this end? I'm not sure, because the path, until we see some better
Yeah, they
stuff.
have to do a survey.
But those are the kind of issues that we look at to try to really minimize that height because of where it is. If you take 10 or 20 or 30 feet off from it, it is substantial to those that visibly can see.
So come walking into tonight's meeting was an anticipation of trying to move this in some kind of sequential, fast succession. We'll see where we come out.
I think, from my vantage point, and obviously with the board's acceptance of this, the next step is to get the balloon test scheduled and concurrently work through reviewing the town property that was identified and continue to work on procuring the microwave path data that we need to document and confirm our minimum height, so that then we can come back to the board with the tower elevation drawing that is based on the real data from the microwave engineers.
Sounds like a plan.
I'd like to just add one other step, and Tom had asked very early to me, and it should be asked, or at least the information given to all of you. The local law is written in such a manner that you have the option of sending this project to the planning board. Now, in this particular case, I'm going to suggest that you not, because the planning board, there's not a lot of site plan aspect of this. I mean, this is my recommendation. And the justification for this is I've watched our planning board with these kinds of issues, and they are not, I don't want to use the word keen, but they do very well with site plan review type aspects with staff input. But in this particular case, I'm going to be giving you and Dick are going to be giving you directly the review comments. And the only thing you're going to get out of them is, should it go there? And I'm not sure what they would add to the review process.
Just, you're being recorded from this.
You know,
It's fine.
Phil,
You're not
Phil,
scared.
you know what I think that they add to it is depending on the populous area that we're dealing with, I think that their public input would be necessary in a situation like that. If it was a more remote location, then we probably would be willing to forego
It is
the
your
planning board's.
prerogative to
I
send it to
understand that, but, if we're gonna be dealing with a populated area, we might wanna have their input just because we don't wanna disallow.
Which do you see as the populated area, the one
just
they
gonna
came
go
in with, or the
I
new?
think the one they came in with has got
New one.
more of a populated impact. It's,
Under your code.
I guess we all have to sit down and decide, is it populous enough that we,
Limited to 40 feet.
that we,
The new one is,
No, the
will
code.
trigger some things
Code
against the
specifies
property.
minimum height and no variance is required other than the board.
Yep.
And this
That's
board
the-
has
that's your
the
next
option.
yeah, but how far, again,
to
we'll
send
take a look at the map,
planning
and how
board
far
if
away
you
is
deem you want to. It's an
Right there.
option, it's not a
That
must.
is ready to go.
May.
That particular
That's why we
piece
wanted
is
to
one
bring
they
it.
Good
also
point, I hadn't
want.
forgotten about that. Okay.
He met with us this week, and Actually, I think you were copied on an email, it was a summary of our discussions on the future of that property. I know I got one, I didn't even look at it yet, I didn't have a chance.
I haven't done it.
Okay, maybe you didn't. I'm just saying, as far as talking about populated areas, I'm not sure which is the bigger challenge right now.
I'm not sure,
I
I'm
think
not
this
sure,
one is.
yeah, I'm not sure that the piece of town property that you were talking about, Jerry, can deal with the, you have to have enough room for the tower to fall down, right? And I'm not sure that that's, you know, I'm sure they can locate it someplace, but if you do that, you're gonna have consumed all the property.
If that were a viable property,
I
I'm
don't
not
see the
sure I
town
want
putting
it
a
there.
sewage treatment plant there. I don't see it.
No.
Well,
So, I mean, do we hang on to it as surplus property, or do we
there are some
find a better
other,
use for it?
there's some other uses in
You could have a
discussion.
sewage,
Okay, then-
lift station.
I mean, you would still have to check that box. If that were a viable option, I'm not sure I would support that option over the one you came in with, but it's irrelevant, we have to check the box to determine,
Have to be
first of all,
assessed.
if it is, has to be assessed,
Mm-hmm.
in order to comply, that's
So,
going to
was,
surface.
was there a desire to send this to the planning board?
no.
We haven't
Yeah.
made that decision yet.
Okay, okay.
I don't think we should, I mean, having sat on the planning board, the thing, anything that we're gonna wind up with from the public is gonna come to the town board. I mean, you know, any kind of visual aspects or anything else, nobody's calling a planning board member complaining about the visual aspect, they're calling his office. So, I mean, to put it anyplace else, this is a place that really should deal with it. We're the one that's gonna deal with every single complaint.
I understand that, and my only hesitation and my suggestion was that the planning board is an arm of the town board. We give them authority to act in certain circumstances. Do we now try to take some of that authority away? I think that's something that the town board needs to discuss, and we need to decide, is this an issue that we solely wanna take upon ourselves, and how many times do we wanna take it upon ourselves?
And I think we've got time to do that.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So I'm not gonna nix the whole
Float the
process
balloon,
just
check
for
that property, and we'll go from there.
No, your code says you may refer it, may
Right.
refer it to any body or group you want to. It doesn't say you have to.
Okay.
It absolutely says may, it's your choice whether you send it to them or not, and it was written that way intentionally.
And that's why we have
This
you.
board, the code, and the authority to do that, so you
Okay.
can or cannot, do that depending upon what you wanna do in the facility and where it's going and so forth. I can also tell you, and I heard another comment, so I might as well, that's what we're here for, is to comment on it. In terms of the square footage of that other town property, if, let's say, one side of it didn't meet the setback height for the height of the tower, there is a way they can design by a break point whereby they design everything below it 25% stronger than everything above. This still meets requirements. This is 125%. So if it's gonna break, it'll break at the top there, and it'll never go on the other property. So from that distance, and I don't even know the square footage, but if they can get their 80 by 80 compound and still have a little bit more space, the land per se is enough to deal with the safety issue. And we would look at it at that time to make sure that was appropriate.
Okay.
Okay? Got your homework set out for you now.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or
No.
comments?
Our contact would be through Dick and Phil. Phil, you'll continue to work as liaison with the board and with Dick.
Do you want that?
You may keep that if you'd like.
All right.
Thank you
I
very much for your time this evening. Appreciate it.
Well, I think as was indicated, it's good to have a
Oh, you do?
discussion
Oh, okay.
before we have to make a decision.
Pretty sure. Should be even in the-
Second page.
Oh,
Second
okay.
page is your-
Yeah, it's right there.
What about the
Yeah.
trail on the center?
I would like a card still.
We got wetland.
Here's one of mine.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time
And if the
tonight.
tower
and,
can
uh,
fall, are we allowed
We look
to
forward
have
to
a
working
trail?
with everybody on this project. It's
I
a
think we're
unique
still talking
project
About enough.
and for a unique purpose.
Because I don't know where the wetland.
I was guessing this was simply
Couldn't build
another
anyhow.
one of this type of power that NICEAG was doing, not unique at
In
all.
conjunction with
Well, for
Another one in the net.
Menard
unique as in terms of towers generally. Most towers that I work on are for
parcel. When are you gonna do that?
wireless carriers.
Right.
And it's unique in the sense that it's not a traditional cell tower.
The purpose is driven by,
Yes. Yes, yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, the land use is the land use. And the purposes are taken into consideration, but it's a tower within town. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And-
Sure you don't want to stay in one of our many fine hotels tonight?
I'm gonna wait till
Many
the weather
fine
gets bad. No,
I don't need to do that
my
anymore.
little one
Time
missed me
Warner
tomorrow
has
morning.
resolved its NFL football league channel.
Just recently, too.
Yeah, I missed the last Giants game.
There
Are they playing
Because of-
tonight?
Did you have that stitches?
No,
No. Giants played last Thursday night.
Right.
And unless you had the NFL
That's it.
on
That's it,
network.
yeah,
How long
that
ago?
But
package.
Time Warner now has it. They
But you don't
settled
have
it
the
on Friday of
signs
last
of
week.
infection or anything.
So I'm sure by
It
this
wasn't rusty or
Thursday,
anything,
they
was it?
will have come up with a
You
channel.
have to
you
have
can
a
get it on.
technician, did you?
I don't even know what game it
With
is.
no coincidence, with a
That's
lot of New
important.
York Giant fans screaming out.
Oh, I'm sure.
What are you doing that high up?
You know, I don't know why you showed us that.
And you were on a ladder.
There's a great pennant race going on. You know, instead of what's off.
Well, that's what I'm gonna use my Cirrus for on the way home.
Oh,
It's for,
Check the
let's
ballgame.
see.
You have no meat there.
Yankees are playing.
You're like right on the bone. Did you get to the bone?
and Baltimore's at,
The Rays.
the Rays.
We don't know.
Yes, tonight. Anyway.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Dick.
So be really
Thank you
careful,
very much.
because, you know, for bone infection can be really
In the
nasty.
meantime, because we are still in work session mode.
All right.
Not
If anybody
fun.
wants to contact me.
Supposed to hire that
please do
stuff.
so, because I find these meetings sometimes stimulate more questions or comments afterwards. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Number 3 on the item. I don't, here, just have mine out of order. You should have a letter. I'm sharing this. My comment is we don't contribute. But I felt it more than appropriate to share that with everyone and their draft, but this is not the kind of thing that we use public funds for.
I don't believe, and somebody can correct me, I don't think I'm wrong. I'm not aware that we have any Adirondack Park land within the town of Plattsburgh.
I've asked that question before, Marty, and Phil has indicated to me there's a small swatch somewhere in Teeville, right on the border, I believe.
Right on the line.
Very small swatch. Certainly not $300 worth.
I thought, well, maybe not because of annexation, but it used to be that the APA ended at the town of Plattsburgh boundaries. And probably with the annexation, the town boundary moved, but not the APA boundary. That would be the only way that could happen, because I believe the definition
No, but what
had an
happened
ending.
with the annexation was, what happened was Saranac laid claim to the land and that moved the line. The annexation moved the line back, didn't it? So we're back where we were.
But when when the line got moved back, for some reason, there was a problem with the surveying or something, Marty, and it moved back even further. There was something about,
When did this occur?
2002, 3, something like that.
But by the fact of the discussion, there's not much there.
No.
So I will
If it
respond
moved
accordingly.
westerly, we would have acquired some land that previously had been considered Saranac's land.
Right,
And that could be what you're talking about.
but if the description of the Adirondack Park is that it ends at town of Plattsburgh boundaries, then wouldn't that line move also once it became town of Plattsburgh?
I would think it would, but I don't know the answer to that.
Good one for council. It's a real estate question. It's a real estate question.
Okay, number 4, the Phase 1 Environmental Assessment Report. This is the report on the landlocked lakefront property that we've discussed going to market.
Not the part where we're gonna actually build the,
No, south of that.
The 400 foot
Yeah.
tower that we were gonna put, so.
is that what we're planning? That's in place.
Wow,
We have the property, and then, you know, what we're gonna do, fall in the lake, that'd be good.
Through the door.
I I did ask Deborah to give you a copy of the first page of the spiral bound report. If you want to see it, I've got it. I don't think I asked her. I think I said I'll read it. Page 12. In conclusion to this lengthy review, the author writes, this assessment has revealed no evidence of recognized environmental conditions in connection with the property except for the following: historic use of the property for overland conveyance of oil from offshore dolphins to bulk storage farms located to the west of the property. There's a lot more here, and I haven't read every word and every page. A lot of it's appendices, photocopied documents, maps, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom line is there is no evidence of recognized environmental conditions in the borings that he did. He obviously didn't bore every square, yard of the property, but our concern, if you recall, was prior to taking that property to public sale to make sure that we had that data and could indicate that to any prospective buyers. Counselor, I don't know if you want a copy of this, you want this one, or you want to look it over and get it back?
I'll get it back to you.
There it is. The thing we would then expect, I'm just going to reiterate what we've discussed before, that Jim would continue to work his way forward with the advertising on that property. We've had it appraised, and now we've done the environmental review. I don't know that we should spend any more money setting it up. We do have, I think, at least interested individuals. We would make sure they're aware of the public announcement as well. Okay, any questions on that? Otherwise, we'll continue. Pardon?
Probably just, I think, not probably, I think you should advertise for bids.
So we have to take whatever bids find.
No, we'll always have the right to reject any and all bids. Like anything else?
Probably the only discussion will be, do we want to have a minimum bid to start from, or just leave it wide open? I don't know the answer to that. Jim will get back to us with follow-up in a follow-up work session, I'm sure.
Yep.
Charge back from the County Board of Elections.
Yeah.
There you go.
Was there a,
Yeah, we didn't get all we got was the letter.
yeah, so what did the chart say? I didn't
Okay. The chart says the cost for 2012 by registered voters was $16,800.
By the letter, we're paying more.
It's giving us a difference of $2,900 that doesn't match. This was something I was chasing Friday, and I'm not comfortable where it's at, because the actual that we spent was $21,498. So I haven't been able to make sense of the numbers as of yet. Obviously will, but here we are, and it's probably questionable how much decision we can make on that anyway.
Aren't we reducing the number of 21 burning that you're talking about?
That was the actual in 2012.
That we paid out to
In January,
workers?
in January to the county as chargeback. I have their invoice.
That would have been the 2011 charge burn.
Correct. $21,498.
Yeah, and the reason it's lower is because we reduced the number of polling places.
But my problem
yeah, but
is,
they changed
I mean, at
the way
primaries,
they did it, in according to the letter,
my
so.
problem is
how is
they're saying the difference is only a little less than 3,000. 16 and 3 adds up to 19, not 21. So there's still something wrong with the
So
numbers.
you had numbers on it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and I don't understand.
Yep.
We were chasing it around, as I said, and I did get from Diane the actual cost in January of this year, but I'm not comfortable we can predict the actual cost for January of 2013.
Well, especially since they're changing the whole formula.
Yeah.
And they said they were gonna have a thing that says what's comparative to now to then, but I didn't.
They're doing it based on population instead of number of voting districts now, is that?
Correct.
Right.
Which we thought would have more positive impact on the world, but more information to follow. I just felt you should be aware. If anybody wants a copy of the entire packet, I'd be more than glad to make it, just tell us. But I wanted to be sure you had some information that's out there before, you just saw it show up on a budget line. Anyone want a full copy? We'll keep you tuned in, but it's works in progress. Employee title reclassification. Some things, as you'll see in draft resolutions, I don't put in the supervisor's report because we'll see it's a draft resolution coming along and it's anticipated. This one,
Does this have to be talked about in executive session?
no, I don't think it would be appropriate to executive session, Tom.
Well, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
You know, when we're talking about somebody.
It's a request to upgrade Jason Cook, MEO4 to MEO3. I did speak with Jim about his rationale, about the need. Does this mean there are duties of an MEO3 that won't be able to be achieved now because you don't have one? The answer is no, no, and no. One of the big things is that as an MEO4, Jason would be in a supervisory position, and he has been given some experience with that, so he's done an outstanding job. He's just a good, hard-working young man, I think a good, dedicated town employee as well. And, I think Jim is identifying that and wanting to give him the acknowledgement and formally the responsibilities to go out there with the crew and supervise as the category of an MEO4 would do. As he indicates, he has spoken with Diane. The money's in the budget for this year as well. He's not necessarily looking to hurry up and backfill another MEO3, just the appropriate thing to do. As indicated to me, he doesn't see anything that the 4 would be restricted to do by civil service law that otherwise would be performed by a 3. The 4 are just adding the supervisory role. I think it's a good recommendation. I wanted to bring it into discussion.
In fact, I don't think he'd need another MEO3 because he'd still be able to do everything an MEO3 can do. It just he'd now be able to supervise employees too. So.
And the other question I asked Jim when he approached me about it was, I said, Jim, my concern is, are we going to have, a domino effect here? You move this guy up and then all of a sudden, there's some arcane language in the labor contract and now you gotta move somebody else into that spot and all that. He said, no, absolutely not. He did not envision that would happen.
It'll stay vacant and it'll be a title that's there if we need it in the future.
So that's only a couple thousand a year, so.
And I think his comment was very strong that, this is an example of where he's trying to bring a guy along who he thinks will be, a future, potentially maybe even a department head someday. But I mean, the guy's got leadership qualities, he's got good work ethics, all the things that he wants to bring him forward and make him into a supervisory employee.
Jim is also very good, but the department, and you probably all know, is designed such that crews will go out. You take 2, 3 men, you work on this, you clean the ditches, you're over there with a paving crew, and he really sees Jason out there doing it, and I totally agree with him. So I'm assuming by what I'm hearing, there's no concern with having a resolution to this effect. Jim would have liked that this might have even happened as soon as tonight, but as we saw earlier tonight, ramrodding things just is not a good idea. And I want to give everyone a chance for discussion.
The language in the contract to make sure.
Well, absolutely not, Tom. Absolutely not. And even if it's been done to this point, everybody still has the right to put their perspective on it, their concerns, like Gerard tonight with the town property. I mean, had you not thought of that, it would have been an issue, yes.
So Bernie, on Jim's request, are we now
Yep.
making it October 1 or are we making it the board meeting?
The board meeting October 1.
We're going to pass it at that meeting. What is
1.
it?
October 1 board meeting, right?
It'll be effective immediately.
I don't deny that Jason is deserving of it, but is there an urgency to do this before the end of the year? Or for the sake of 2 months, can we wait until 2013 to initiate this into a new budget?
If Jim were here, he'd give you a lot of reasons why.
I'd
I'm
flip it
sure-
around the
I'm
other
sure he
way,
would.
and I'd say, why would we wait? If it's, you know, he has the money in the budget, he's had a person who's not been drawing, you know, to pay, so he's got the money in the budget, and he feels that it's you know, the time's appropriate for him to give this guy the promotion.
Well, let me ask you a question about that. We said the money's in the budget. Do we take into account,
Yes,
what?
all the ripple effect, the benefits, unemployment, retirement, increased FICA.
So what's the percentage on that?
It's taken into account, I don't know the
I
percentage.
would
In
tell
my
you,
mind, I'd say
I
it's
would
double.
tell you it's about 48%.
So if somebody's getting whatever salary there is, we add 48% to it?
Yeah.
To make sure it's in the budget?
Those categories that would reflect benefits cannot be budgeted at the rate that the year before we anticipate the need because of things like this.
And they also,
Just
we have
can't
the
do it.
problem, I mean, for example, the state just announced the increase
Yeah.
in the retirement.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm concerned about,
Yeah.
is these are, we don't say there's money in the budget. Are we saying, if that's the case, we've got everything, I just want to make sure from at least this point on, we haven't in the past, we've got everything funded.
Everything is funded to the foreseeable future. Indefinitely, absolutely not, it's impossible. Impossible. When we had the actuary that we were forced to do, that was another unfunded mandate, come up with knowledge that we knew but never quantified about the cost for the next 50 years or 100 years in retirements and benefits, it's a number you can't even, there's no way you can save for it.
But
It's impossible, you can't prepare for it. As a whole, you do the piece in front of you, and you anticipate the growing piece. That's philosophical as much as my analogy is, you know, the young couple that is saving for a college education for all their children. The average middle-class family is gonna do it, doesn't mean the children aren't going to college. We'll find a way, we'll pay, and we have to do the same with some of these. We're solvent in
Well-
that short foreseeable future, far out. I mean, let's go to the conversation you had in the work session about water, you're absolutely right, $10 million worth of needed work, and I bet there's more. If
Well, I
we
think
really
so,
brought
too.
everything up to
Well, I
par.
agree with, I agree with you, Jim, in one sense, but you also have to look at, it's not just monetary, we're talking about people here, we're talking about who is gonna be able to lead in the future, who's gonna be able to handle, because if you don't have the right people there, you're gonna be wasting a lot of money anyway, because you're gonna need extra.
no, I'm just
Good
saying,
job.
when you make a decision, I mean, you know, say like throughout particularly California, they have not dealt with that issue, and they're just going to bankruptcy one after another.
Yeah.
Because they just get bored.
Well, they didn't have, and they were told for years.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knew, there were only 4 states in the country that had what could be described as currently funded retirement plans. They were New York, Massachusetts, Nevada, and Alaska. The rest of them, you know, many of them are, you know, this is what Studebaker went under on. Studebaker was writing pension checks right out of the checkbook. They didn't have any money over here that was designed to do that. We have a lot of states that are just, they are totally underwater on their retirement program.
I think New York is slightly underwater too. I'm saying.
No, New York, I'll challenge on that, Jim. You know, DiNapoli has been very clear on his statements that New York
For
is-
all living New Yorkers who are in the fund is funded to meet their needs to the end. For all New Yorkers coming into such a plan, probably not. I think it's a lot like Social Security. You know, out to a point, it's there, but if the trends continue as they are, the money won't be there. And I don't know how you resolve that. I think the best answer to your question, and I don't have, you know, the definitive answer is, in the short term, absolutely. We're not deficit funding. We're not running today on debt that won't be able to be paid in the future.
And we've also
Will we be able to do that
renegotiated
forever?
contracts
I don't know.
To make it more.
Well, I don't know either. I know that in the water district, we're not collecting the money we should collect to pay for the infrastructures that we have to make. That's a fact. I don't think anybody disputes that.
Yeah.
So you can't want to, I mean, it's.
No, I agree with you.
Well, I've said that for the last,
Yeah.
how many years?
You know, what
You've been on,
the only thing I'm
I've been
saying, and I'm
saying
trying to, I know, and I'm kind of a worn out record on this, but we can talk for hours on whether we're gonna have a bingo inspector for one day, but we never tackle the big problem. I'm sure we never have. Those are the ones we should be spending the hours on, not one day of a bingo inspector.
And we'll spend the hours on that, and the hours will be, you know, number one, we had to define the need in the foreseeable future. Then we have to prioritize that need. I think the water committee did a great job to work with that, and Scott's really trying to get around all that also. And one way, on one end of the spectrum is, you go borrow $10 million and you fix it. And the other end is, we do nothing. And somewhere in there, we're gonna make some decisions that begin to address it on an as-needed.
Well, I'm just saying, in one way you can do it, if like every company in the United States do, they say, okay, we've got infrastructure worth X dollars, and it declines at 8% per year, and they multiply it out, and they subtract it, and that determines whether they pay taxes or not.
Yeah.
They don't do it on cash flow, and that's how we do it
The
here.
one thing they don't all do is put it aside so that it's there to deal with it.
Well, that may be true, but any good company does.
Within reason, there's
Yeah,
another argument that
they
the
just fail.
technology changes.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you've got a house, you know, it's going down at a certain rate, if you have an apartment building, and you just have to say, I'm gonna have to put a new roof on in 20 years, and it's gonna be $20,000, you gotta put away $1,000 a year, you have to do it.
You should do it, or if, for those who don't do it, or let's say save half of it, they're going to have 10 cash up front, they're gonna borrow 10, spread that out over 10, and then maybe somebody in the future owns that house, will have to do it again. That is a viable way to solve the problem. The elephant's too big to simply sit down and devour it, I think.
Yeah, no, you devour it bite by bite,
Bite
the
by
same way.
bite.
Bite by bite. And bite by bite is finding it, the extent that our infrastructure in dollars declines in a year. And we have to know that number.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's...
It's more difficult to try to figure out how your staff declines or improves.
Oh, and if it were perfect, we don't, all we know is say, we have all these water towers, and like, I was shocked, I think when Jerry told me the cost to paint a water tower, I think it's like 25,000, he said about, you know, add another zero on that one. And
that was 9 years ago.
I was gonna say, it's not too real, 50,000.
So, what I'm saying is, we put one up, I don't know if you have to be painted every 20 years or whatever it is, you have to, in all the water rates that you two guys are figuring out, you gotta put that in there. And communities don't, and that's why they're going belly up, in particular all over California, and that's why we have to look at it. I know they sound like a broken record, I'm just saying, I would like to see time spent in every meeting on this monster issue.
Well, and that is, it's good that you bring it up, and you should bring it up again, because it is the monster issue.
Well, I want to get reappointed, you know.
Well, and that becomes some of the point of democracy. I mean, we have begun to move those rates up. We have begun to try and stop giving away water. When we got rid of the flat rate, we're giving away water.
Exactly.
So we're doing some things that go the right direction, but for an elected body, it's sort of like, you want to be the parent of the year. You aren't dragging your kids, to do certain things that are healthy for them, and, going to the dentist and all the other stuff, the investment in their future. If we really forced on the community, to the best of our ability, what is best for them, like good parenting, none of us would be here. They would eventually elect the ones that keep that from them. They don't want to know that. And unfortunately, that's why an elected official, we keep hearing, and I've used to kick the can down the road. They don't want to hear the truth and find a solution. But last Monday, we had some guests at our meeting that were already beginning to bristle against any increases.
They'll bristle, but we have to do the things that we have to do.
One individual demanding a moratorium, but that's what you deal with in trying to balance and go the right direction. and I get defensive because I think we're doing well. I'm not worried about the short term buying some,
I'm not worried about the short term either.
you know,
I think short term's fine.
short term's pretty good, and what
Well,
we're.
but the long term, I don't think it's so good.
But this group has really begun to look at it, if only because of your concerns, we're not gonna let it get away. As we look at the rates, as we prioritize the things we need to do.
Well, that's what I'm hoping comes out of our budget this year,
Yeah.
at least, you know, for water and sewer, and I've been advocating for highway to put half of the money away for a new truck, if they're buying them every 2 years, and then the
But where do they
next
get
half
the
of
money
next
that they
year,
put away? Where's the money come from?
out of the budget.
Out of the budget, that isn't enough money to pay for it now, you're gonna save half of it. That's like your roof. I'm barely putting food on the table for the family and paying the doctor bills, but you want me to put $1,000 a year for the roof I'm gonna have to fix in 20? That's not gonna happen.
You know, along the lines of putting stuff away, I need to just chime in on this, and again, it's nothing against Jason Cook, it's nothing against Jim's recommendation, but when I hear the money's in the budget, we might as well spend it. We don't need to spend it for the sake of 2 months, and I will be meeting with Jim tomorrow to find out what his concerns are with a 2-month delay on making this promotion. If he has some really good concerns and can address my problem with spending the money because the end of the year's coming, then I'll change my opinion. But I personally am of a mind that we can afford to wait. It's $2,000, that's not gonna buy us a truck. But if we, okay, $2,000 from this budget and another $10,000 from this budget because we have it, and another, now it starts to add up. So,
The question he should answer is, why do you need that supervisor now?
right, and if he has
It's
some,
not about
if he
money,
has
it's
some
about
legitimate
needing a
concerns,
position.
I wanna hear them.
So anyway, that will be there, and certainly if it goes down, it goes down. If it needs to be pulled, it'll be pulled. But I think we're in agreement, but there is the other issue, and you're absolutely right. It's complex. It's extremely
Oh, I
complex.
don't think it's easy, yeah, I grant that.
Bernie, I just wanna weigh in this. I really think we've been asking Jason to supervise already. I really think we've been asking him to do the job, we just haven't compensated him for it. I really think he's been down that road. I think he's been down the road for a little bit of time now. And, I mean, maybe he could probably come back and say we probably should have done it a while ago. But I remember this very same board promoting 3 laborers to MEO ones for no other reason than we didn't need more MEO ones. We wanted to move guys up, and we wanted to give them a sense of stepping up the ladder and do that, and we promoted 3 guys. We didn't hire any new laborers, so we didn't need more laborers. We promoted all those guys for the exact same reason that you're now saying that we probably shouldn't do this. I mean, we promoted 3 for the
But I
same
think
thing.
some of that was also exactly what you just said, that we had laborers doing work outside of their labor classification.
I'd like to point out that
One was driving
the
a truck.
dollar amount, just so, you know, it kind of goes with what Jim was talking about. The dollar amount is less than $1 an hour. It's 40 hours a week this man works. He's gonna work 13 weeks starting 1st of October. He's gonna work 13 weeks. of this year.
$750.
Okay? I just think we ought to also be aware of that.
That's adding the 48.
Yeah. But I think,
And it's
Paul,
not a question of, I mean, I can
That's
tell you,
right.
Jim never, Jim's point was never, we got the money, we may as well spend it. We don't have that attitude going on in that department.
Okay,
I think it's
His
what I
point
mean
was-
doing supervision.
I think
I
he took a crew and he went up and did FEMA work, and he's done other, he's
Absolutely.
taken a crew to do other things, and he's supervising the guys. You know what? The other guy, I mean, I would do it if it, you know, if I'm not the foreman on the job, and I do it all the time, there's guys on the job, we got 3 foremen on the job, well, who's the guy running the job? That's the guy I'm gonna listen to. And, you know, I mean, if he's not the boss, then he's not the boss, and why should anybody have to listen to him? We have to make him the boss.
Jason ran Buck's Corners and did a heck of a job,
Yeah,
and he was supervising. So-
Exactly.
But those are the things that need to come out in these forums. The draft resolutions minutes, I did pick up on, and I guess it came out in the copy you had. We've got a skip in the attendance, and that will need to be corrected for the official minutes. If anybody sees anything, please let us know, preferably in plenty of time before Monday. Resolution 272, warranty extension for the 2013 freight liner.
Is this for the next meeting, or?
No, this is for right now, because if we don't do it now, we're gonna lose it. Sometimes things happen that way, it didn't get to us before. I'd like to bring this to the table, and then we can have whatever discussion you want, rather than discuss it before we bring it to the table. Just order protocol. So Rick, would you read 272, please?
Yep.
Warranty extension.
Whereas James Wood, Highway Superintendent, has submitted a letter dated September 19, 2012, requesting permission to purchase an extended warranty on a new 2013 truck. Whereas the total estimated cost of the extended warranty is not to exceed $6,000 as per attached letter. Now therefore be resolved that the Highway Superintendent is hereby authorized to make said purchase, and it be further resolved that the Supervisor is hereby authorized to sign any and all related documents requiring of the purchase of said warranty. And it is further resolved that payment be made payable from the Highway Budget Equipment Capital Outlay Account DA 5130-2000, and that a copy of this resolution be given to the Budget Officer and to the Highway Superintendent.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Paul, second.
Second.
Marty. And any discussion?
Go ahead, Tom. I actually spoke to Jim about this a little bit. It's actually cheaper, I think, than the warranty we had on the 2012 truck we bought. They actually made a custom warranty package for us from the dealership, where he looked at and said, look, we never have a problem with that, don't include it in the warranty, you're just paying money for nothing. You should warranty this, we've had problems with that, warranty that. I mean, they really went down through and pretty much gave us an item by item list of anything they might have trouble with in the warranty and that. So coincidentally, the new truck, I think blew a pretty large hydraulic line the other day when I was sitting in his office, and they had guys running over with speedy dry and whatever, and that brand new truck just continues to fail. So it's just,
Well, what's the regular one?
I don't know. This is 5 years extended beyond the regular warranty, I believe.
It's not from the time we got it and say, okay, 5 years.
No, it's 5 years
3 years
beyond
for this.
or 250,000 miles,
How long have
whichever
we owned
comes
this
first.
truck? How long have we owned this truck?
We haven't taken delivery of this
We
truck.
haven't taken delivery, we already have problems with it?
No.
No, this
The
is
truck we
the
bought,
Oh, okay.
the last truck we bought.
Okay.
That would be a bad situation.
Yeah.
We've continually had problems.
International.
Right.
It's been nothing but a joner since it came in the yard.
Right. We've continually had problems with it.
They started up and run it down the road
Isn't there a
and
lemon
quit.
law on vehicles like this? I mean,
Especially once they break down before you get them.
Wow,
I-
they had a lot
Maybe
of
we should be
problems.
buying from a different company?
Well, that's
Yeah,
what
well,
we've
that's
done
what
with
we're
this
doing.
one.
This one is coming from a different company.
Yeah, a different, complete manufacturer.
I was impressed that this extended warranty was 2,000 less than the one we bought 2 years ago.
Right.
And my interpretation of that was, they must be so confident in that vehicle that they don't expect the claims, so they can
Right.
sell it
Well,
for us, which
with-
is
with-
good.
Well, the other one
So
obviously probably would be
International-
complained.
The International pays an emissions fine that they have to include in their bid when they submit a bid. They pay an emissions fine because they can't meet the standard of New York State. So in order to do it, they have to run their price up because they have to pay that, they have to pay a
Right.
fine for every truck they produce in New York State.
What's the brand that this one
It's a Freightliner, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
Freightliner,
this-
I guess
yeah,
that's
the new
what-
truck is.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons they went to it, that they have less problems.
Who makes
with
Freightliner?
And it,
With the Cummins motor and that stuff in it, so,
Ricky, who makes Freightliner?
Freightliner.
Freightliner.
It's a,
But
Truck
you have a,
company?
Yeah,
you have
tractor
a, you
trailer
have a choice of the cab and chassis, and you can put whatever engine, transmission, rear ends into it, to where International doesn't offer that onto it.
This is
Or you
one
can- you
that
can
Jim
put a-
pieced together.
Yeah, right, you can put a Cummins motor, you can put a Detroit motor, you can put a Volvo motor, you can put all sorts of motors into it, depending on what your specs are.
One of the things that some people might be critical of is the fact that the town has full-time mechanics too. And, what are we doing that for? Since I've been here, we've bought a lift out there, we have enabled them to be able to do the inspections and a variety of things. Those mechanics, because of their skill and knowledge, advise Jim as to what specs to look for, what
Right.
engines are historically a problem. Paul, you ran into that with them over the
Pickup
truck that Parks and Rec had.
Yep.
And they have intimate knowledge of the vehicles, and really, they not only take care, but their consulting is worth a lot. And Jim pays attention. And he made a real change in the, you know, the expectations he had for a vehicle and who he'd buy from to our advantage, I think.
I can tell you, all over Clinton County, there's highway superintendents are watching what's gonna happen with this vehicle.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
They really are.
But anyway, he's requesting, we've given you some information. It definitely is a good deal, and we'd be very foolish. What was, anybody remember the price was like 200,000 plus on this thing?
Yep.
I mean, it'd be crazy not to.
250 something.
Yeah, I generically say $250,000.
Yeah.
My frustrations with a 60-cent highway tax and if you need to buy equipment, you know.
If I remember right, by
Okay.
piecing
It's more
it,
expensive than the lumber.
by
I know you
piecing
wanted
it
to make it
together, buying it separate, he was able to save about 30 or 40,000, if I remember,
Right.
by buying just the chassis and then buying the
Yeah.
box.
And it wasn't because he asked to do that, it's because he
And it
knows it's
wasn't-
the right thing to do.
It wasn't just a cost-cutting process. He was looking to get a better
Better
vehicle.
equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, dependable. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Mark Manick,
Yes.
Paul Moy,
Yes.
Gerard Renadette,
Yes.
Bernie Dorchenez.
Yes, resolution carries. The next one is one we added in earlier this evening, Resolution 273. It's a authorization for request for proposals, advertisement for ambulance service. The copy you have may not be exactly as Ricky is reading. There were just a couple changes I made. Rick, if you'll get it on the table, and you might want to just edit yours as we go along, we'll change the final one.
Whereas the town board has previously authorized the required advertisement for RFPs for the ambulance service within the town of Plattsburgh's consolidated ambulance district. And whereas an advertisement for proposals is needed to assist in advancing the project. Now therefore it be resolved that on advertisement shall be placed in the official newspaper of the town of Plattsburgh as soon as possible. And it be further resolved that the town board, town of Plattsburgh, hereby authorize the publication for request for proposals to provide ambulance service to the town of Plattsburgh Consolidated Ambulance District. And it be further resolved that on Friday, October the 12th, 2012, at 3 p.m. prevailing time, at the Town Hall Office Complex, 151 Baker Road, Plattsburgh, New York, 12901, the town clerk will publicly open sealed proposals, and it be further resolved that the town of Plattsburgh board does reserve the right to reject any and all proposals offered. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the budget officer and to the town clerk.
A motion.
So moved.
Mr. Renadette, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, discussion.
You just changed bids to proposals.
October 12.
We didn't ask for bids previous week. The last couple times we've done this, we've asked for proposals.
And based on certain criteria,
Yes, it's a lengthy criteria. It's
so everybody got the same.
9 or 10 or 12 pages long. We're in the process of
You'll
just,
get on the 12th
you know,
at 3.
polishing
Yeah.
some of that language so that we'll have it available for distribution. But we want to get this ad in the paper for the same reason everybody else has, is that you have to hustle and get your ad in. They need 3 days lead time, and then you know, you got to give the people some time. One of the things we want to do is have a proposal meeting for people who want to come in and ask questions, et cetera. And you do that, and then we're trying to look at a date like the 12th as a date for those proposals to be in. We're going to squeeze them pretty tightly to get that information to us.
The only change was bids to proposals, 3 times.
Well, it wasn't the only change, but that was the predominant change.
Okay, I didn't catch the other one.
In the second whereas, there was no therefore be it. In the first resolve, I took out the word and. I changed the word said to an advertisement, and took the and off that. The second one I let continue as the therefore be it resolved, and took out the now therefore be, it was just redundant.
Okay.
Do you want me to continue?
No,
When we have proposals, do we typically have a time that we open the proposals in front of
Yes.
people?
It's in there.
Oh, I know that, I'm just saying, is that
Oh,
typically,
yeah, you have to.
with a
I don't know
proposal?
if you have to open them, you have a cutoff, but I don't know if, we open bids, I don't know if you open
Exactly,
a
yeah.
proposal.
Right, yeah, proposal, you're just
There's
gonna
a
get,
cutoff date.
bring it to a town board meeting, discuss it, and decide you're gonna award whatever, we don't have to.
Well, I
open
think,
these
I think the
up.
reason they wanna keep it sealed is because they don't want any situation where somebody sees somebody else's proposal.
Right.
No, I think
But he
it's
doesn't
true.
have to open, he can just bring them to the next work session and we can
Exactly.
talk
I
about
think we
it.
did it in the interest of transparency, for just the reason Tom's alluding to. You know, those two operations, I mean, we can really get some squirrely behavior going on.
But they don't, they're not expecting an award at this meeting?
No.
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
You can just open and say
You
we have a
open
proposal
it.
from, we have
Okay.
another proposal
Alright.
from, and
Yeah.
so it's acknowledged who's
Yep.
submitted, but that's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have to mention, or should we mention in here that any interested parties are expected to sign a non-collusion?
Not in this, but it's
Not in
in
this?
it's in the document that they will, they're gonna come in here and pick it up from Rick, or they're gonna get it
Okay.
off the
That's
website.
on the last page of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Marty,
assume
the
the two
doc-
of you are putting the packet together for the
Absolutely.
Mannix is-
proposal?
Mr.
You're
Mannix
working on
is-
that?
got
Yeah,
his thumb
that's
on
why
it.
I was just gonna, are there any substantial changes to that packet? Cause I mean, we've seen it before. It
Not
just-
really. The only thing that I think may happen, and I'm gonna try to get a session together with Mike Legree to get some advice from him. Last year, when we worked with it, we literally took some stuff out. And my concern is I'm working with it now and I'm saying, I think this stuff, I don't think that what I've got in my hand, you know, has us taking out the things we agreed to take out. And so that's what I wanna make sure of, okay? We had some requirements in there regarding, equipment, we got, and basically those things, they said, look, we're regulated by other people, we don't, it's not for the town to get into that
There was
regulation.
something too about the regularity of requesting reports or deposits or something like that, but I think this time around, we need to,
Well, we need to push them again, we at least got them on a quarterly basis, which they all said before they couldn't abide by, but they're abiding by it. The state requirements are that they forward that stuff directly to a town checking account, and that be done on a monthly basis. They're not there. I mean, what we said to them was, we owe you a payment on a quarterly basis. You're not getting your payment unless we get our payment. So if you've got receivables, you gotta get them to us. And all of a sudden, we were getting the receivables,
So we haven't had the problem this year that we've had in the past.
What problem are you referring to?
Well, the fact that they wouldn't report, that we wouldn't get.
We're lacking some of the specificity in the report from CVPH, and we've gotta push them to get on top of that better. Morrisonville does a good job with their report. We have a problem with what they ask us for, but their report is a good report. They commingle a lot of funds, and that's an issue. But part of the problem they're telling us, for example, the state of New York would like to see assignments, that there'd be an assignment filed to, Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield, that those payments, instead of coming to the ambulance service, would come to the town and be deposited into the consolidated ambulance district account. Their comment is they cannot do that on many of the payments that they receive. They can't do it with Medicare, Medicaid, because those have to be actually paid to the
person who has the assigned number.
Yeah, the provider number, which is like their social security number or their employer ID number, is what directs how it gets paid. And that's a control that they have on the programs nationally. So, we're trying to say to this, we can't ask somebody to do something that that they can't do. I mean, then that also is in our contract. When you get to the end of the contract, you know, basically it says you can't. And, you know, one of the things we did put in the contract last year, which again, we haven't had this year, we haven't had occasion to have to use it, was we go to arbitration if we have any problems, as opposed to.
I guess I'd like to say that before we send this out to the ambulance service, I'd like to see it.
Well, that I can tell you we can do, Paul.
Okay.
Okay, we're just working on trying to get but what I wanna do with this is get the permission to be able to do the ad in the paper, because that's gotta get sent to the paper tomorrow.
Okay.
But as soon as that does show in the paper, we gotta have a document ready to give to them.
Right, so we got,
Well,
we
and-
got 3 days, we
My
got 3 days.
my
to get
concern
that
is if
done.
there's discussion here that there's any kind of a change to that document before we send it out. That's my concern.
Well,
I mean,
I gave you the new one that Jack had sent, that was the latest, so the one that I printed today, I gave you, that was the one that we gave to them last year.
and
Jack didn't print any document,
Yeah.
no. I can tell you, the person who did the specifications for the RFP was Marty. Okay? And when it came time for the contract, time for the contract, you know, the contract was done,
It was based on the one that we had, but
it was
the
based on
changes,
one that we had, and I
Yeah.
think, Jim, you looked at that.
I certainly had the
I
arbitration.
know you did,
Yeah.
yeah,
it-
yeah. But no, Jack
The
didn't.
one that's in the file that was
yeah, but
printed
that was the creation of the district, I think. Jack's
Yeah, I
involvement
think
in
that's
this
what you're talking
ended
about.
once the district was created.
Oh, okay.
Right.
The ambulance committee has basically had the total
Town
impetus of the negotiations and such.
Well, and I guess that's what I'm alluding to is, I know there's been problems, and I mean, I hear, I mean, I talk to you guys, I know there's been problems, and I hear the problems from the other side, because obviously I've got a pretty good relationship with some of those people, and I really feel like I'm, as a town board member, I'm in the dark about everything that happens on the ambulance committee, and about everything that, you know, when we change things, or when we negotiate things, or if they're performing or not performing, I don't know.
We'll send it to you, we'll send you a copy, okay?
But I'm not just looking for the proposal, I guess I'm looking for a report from the ambulance committee. If they've got deficiencies, what we're now doing in the new proposal to try and fix those.
I'll see if I can find my notes from the last ambulance committee meeting where all the fire chiefs were invited. We had 2 fire chiefs here. We had, Mike Legree was here from CVPH with, who's the other guy that goes with him? Jeff Beeching was here. I'll see if I can find it for you.
Okay.
Basically, there were no real deficiencies to speak of. Jeff Favreau was the only one who had any kind of major comments whatsoever. And in
Those got resolved.
in a nutshell, he was pleased with the service they've been getting.
Yeah.
He said that there was even a time when Morrisonville was at the scene of a call before the Katyville volunteers were there. And historically, they've always been there first.
Oh, I know, I've had conversations with him,
But-
and he is happy with that service.
I gotta tell you that there was very little complaint from any of the fire
The
chiefs.
one
that
thing he
were
was
in charge.
unhappy with last year was on the town of Plattsburgh side of Katyville, the rate for ambulance service is higher than it was on the Schuyler Falls side. Over in Woods Mills, of the, not Katyville, but of the Katyville Fire District. Okay, so on the Wood Mills side of the Katyville Fire District, their rate was lower, and he, you know, he was all bent out about that. Part of the thing that we're working on, and it could be, you know, we'll talk more. All of these things, you know, I mean, the whole budget process that we have to go through there's a part of it that's almost nuts, you know. We're being asked to pull together numbers for a budget, we don't even have 3rd quarter income.
Right.
You know, I mean, so you're dealing with a half a year's set of figures.
No, and I know, I mean, I think, you know, receivables from them was an issue for a while, and I guess my questions are, have all those things been resolved? Because those are things that I'd like to know before I start authorizing any of this stuff.
No. We're contrary to what Schuyler Falls proclaimed would happen going back for years, okay? The receivables that we're getting from Schuyler Falls are not as high as the receivables per run that we're getting from CBPH. And that's part of why we're gonna be after Schuyler Falls. They're going to have to do, a better job of indicating the revenue to us on a more timely fashion. It's not gonna come out, all go into your account, somebody do some calculation, you send us some kind of check. That isn't the way it's gonna happen.
Yeah. There may have to be some monitoring, some close monitoring of the books, because, again, it's not panning out. And Jeff Favreau's biggest complaint was that the tax, I had assured them that in a very short order, from what we were expecting, their tax rate would go down. That, basically Katyville went up because CBPH was serving them. They got Morrisonville. So they saw an increase, because when the consolidated district was done, everybody saw an increase except for the people who were using Morrisonville, Schuyler Falls. So that means Katyville saw an increase in their residential tax rate. We highly anticipated, it was very short order with collectibles, that tax rate would come down in the town of Plattsburgh. It's not. And it's not because the collectibles are not meeting what we expected, and we're not able to get a good answer.
Right.
Short of going into anything else,
No, I understand.
because we don't have an answer.
But I think Mr. Bassett is on the right track of maybe hiring somebody who's a professional accountant to maybe start looking at and overseeing some of their, accounts and stuff that they send us, and maybe have a better track on our end of things.
Is there any incentive that they have to collect money?
No.
You can't, that's just, you can't work.
There used to be an incentive.
But if there's not anymore, then why, if I were there, I wouldn't even bother. Why the hell bother?
It's law.
I don't know that it is, but anyways,
I can't imagine, Jim, that they're encouraging their collection agency to not go after collectibles,
Yeah.
because their collection agency is paid based on what they collect.
Collecting agency.
So there's an incentive for the agency to go after each and
Right.
every PDR that's made out.
Mhm.
And actually, that
Now-
agency had a better collection rate than was
They-
being done
exactly.
previously through CBH.
Exactly.
But has that dropped off, or are they not?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
It has.
And
And
there's
we're
no
trying to
explanation
figure out
for it.
why.
I think,
Number of calls are up, the number of
calls are-
collectibles.
Well, the
is
calls
down.
are not, the calls actually are not up. It's interesting, the problem we had on calls happened in 2011, which was the first year we gave them that contract, which was on minimum, maximum. And their calls, they had almost a 50% increase in the number of calls, which was like, come on, this is nuts. You can't have a 50% increase in calls, you haven't, tell me what happened that brought about this increase in the calls for ambulances or whatever. What's happening this year is the number's gone down, hasn't? It
Gone down from the 11's level, or
gone
from,
down from 11's level,
which was 50% higher?
which was 50% higher. That,
But did 2011's level off once they reached their maximum?
No.
It kept climbing?
oh, no, they went up to a rate, they went up to a number,
Right.
and they lived at that number. And it was amazing. When we informed them in December, or in November, that they had reached their cap and they weren't gonna get paid any more money. So,
Calls
they,
dropped off.
man, did they drop off. Now,
but I mean,
explain that to me.
I mean, that is why I think maybe Paul is right, maybe Bernie's right too. I don't think this is something we can allow to continue. I mean, there's something wrong.
What is it? The answer, in my opinion, falls with the controller's office. If the controller's office comes in and does an audit, that will be a very telling set of circumstances.
Well, I think that's true, but I think if one side isn't incentivized, they're incentivized to make a lot of
And I'm
calls
not-
when they're getting paid, and once you're near the limit and they drop, that just tells you
I
that,
know it does, but at the same time, I don't think there's anybody with their hand in the till, okay? I just think it's a whole mentality
Right.
toward,
Well,
toward the process.
well, and I know you guys regularly monitor that, but I mean, they were charging for putting a Band-Aid on it, the Clinton County Fair.
Well, we've addressed it.
No, I understand that, but I mean, those were 2011 calls that escalated. They go put on,
We
they're
didn't
operating
pay
for the
We didn't pay
fair.
for any of those calls in 2011 either.
No, I understand you didn't.
We addressed it.
I know you
We
did.
said, that's crazy.
But they also, when they dispatch 2 ambulances for 2 patients, they take both patients in the same ambulance to the hospital.
We've attacked that.
Okay.
All of those, we did not pay. Last year, when we got done and we did all of the calls that we would not agree to pay for, they still were at their maximum. Okay, so we had to pay them the maximum under the contract. This year, that's not the case. This year, they're gonna be between the minimum and the maximum, okay?
But it's interesting, when Jim talks about incentives, and you're really talking about incentives to collect, the bills go to a collection agency, not the service provider, so that shouldn't change. And the calls are not their decision to go out and make a call, the calls come from dispatch. So it shouldn't be real hard to align
We did a check, call by call. Call by call. We verified that they had 9/11 calls.
And
Now,
they are what they are.
Well, did
we
the
thought-
9/11 calls stop when they got to the maximum?
it did.
Is that,
It
do you
lowered.
think that's
It
an
lowered.
unusual coincidence?
They went from
It's
60,
unusual.
they went from 60 calls, they went from 60 calls a month back to about 42 calls a month.
But don't you, I mean,
Jim, you're not saying anything to us. Just carry it out and say, Jim.
There's no good explanation for it, and I think,
well, Chris has a good explanation for it. They had reached the maximum, they weren't doing any more work.
but then.
But they don't
then
control
you're-
the work comes out of
Exactly.
9/11,
It comes
Well,
from,
911.
so now we're treading on an area where we might be stepping on other people's toes and accusing them of something that we don't want to accuse them
I
of.
don't saying you accuse them. Let me just give you one example. The Mayo Clinic in Rochester and the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland pay doctors' salaries. They don't get any money for tests or anything. You get flat. When you go to work in the Mayo Clinic, you go to work in Cleveland Clinic, which is 2 best clinics are possibly in the world. People fly into Cleveland from Saudi Arabia, everything. Their doctors, one salary, order about 1/2 the number of tests that are ordered in other clinics where the doctors are paid. Now, does that mean they're lazy at the Cleveland Clinic or they're lazy at Mayo? No. There's just no incentive. Does it mean they're corrupt in every other clinic? No. They're incentivized to do the test. When you're incentivized to do the test, it changes everything. And I think that's a big thing we have to look at. And
One of the, in my mind, one of the biggest problems, and I've seen it since day one, is the communication. And with the 2 service providers that I'm sensitive to, you know, we're starting to talk about negotiations, and this isn't the right forum, especially with
Right.
things being taped, but one institution is so large, and this is a part of something way beyond a ambulance service, it's difficult to pull that person away and, you know, get a real good dialogue going about how this works. And the other is so small with so many volunteers, you have the same problem, and each want to hold it close to their breast because, again, they're saving grandpa's life. What about that don't you understand? We made a run, we applied oxygen and, you know, hit the paddles and gave you a bill. The other thing we probably are going to face, and we'll go into your concerns about sustainability, would you say the number of calls going to individuals in homes with insurance coverage has gone up or gone down? If there's no insurance coverage, guess what happens to payment?
goes down with that.
And for those who have it, and for Joe homeowner who gets assessed through ad valorem taxes, now we're subsidizing all these good folks because they don't have health care. And because they don't have health care, when grandpa's not feeling well, I can't go to the doctors, I call for an ambulance, he's having chest pains, we go to the ER, we see a doctor, and he goes home. That's a huge, that's the root of the problem.
The other
It's
thing
going
you
to
ought to
get worse.
consider, Bernie, we're both grandpas, so I'd say great grandpa.
Actually, Counselor, I will disclose this evening, I am that as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, all right.
Then you have no defense.
There'll be
huh?
no answers to questions not asked. Any further discussion on the resolution to authorize an RFP?
No.
No, not yet.
So carried
Didn't
away.
pass.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Manick,
Yes.
Paul LeMoy,
Yes.
Gerard Renadette,
Yes.
Bernie Bass.
Yes, the resolution carries as amended. And we'll get those out to you soon. I want to just briefly walk us through the culvert pipe, make sure and take a look. The tentative budget, God bless us, that will be filed with the clerk Monday, I'm told, by our budget officer. The next one, advertising for 2013 budget work sessions. While we were discussing other things, I took a look at this, and there are some amendments to it, so please consider this a draft. The biggest thing is the dates say October 16 and 18. It should be the 16th, 17th, and 18th. We're going to, as we've done in the past, announce this as sessions from 8 to 4, because we don't know until we can schedule with department heads and with us exactly when we'll meet. For those of you who are available, and I don't mean to pick on retired people, but obviously more opportunity than those of us who still work for a living in the community, it's still going to be somewhat difficult, but the only way I can see to do it is we're going to schedule with departments. We'll let you know, and hopefully you can be here.
So are those the days?
Those are the 3 days we will work
We're
it between 8 and 4.
We're definitely gonna have,
If you pass this resolution, we are. That doesn't mean every day we're meeting from 8 to 4. Those are the 3 days that we will schedule with departments.
There is an alternative to do this in front of the whole board, and that's schedule it in the evening and have department heads come in here so they can meet with the whole board.
Well,
And I'll just point that out, that I'm really the guy that's getting excluded from this, so.
Yep, you may.
I would take it.
have been in that situation a lot of times.
Oh.
Just so you know, Paul, that used to be done in the past, and I think Marty will concur, it used to be done in the past where it was done before the whole board in the evenings, and we used to be here till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So do you really wanna do this? Because with more people comes more questions. Or you can leave it up to the few people that can get there and you'll get a cleaned down version.
I think it's diminishing returns when you start putting in the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th hour of your workday. 4 counselors coming in. You know, I mean, we're all working. I'm working here, you're working there. What are you going to accomplish in a 14-hour day with, you know, any... To me, I just don't think it's a good idea. But I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying.
I don't have a problem with having it later in the day, and I really don't have a problem with all counselors being involved in it. I can tell you, the last 2 or 3 years, it was Bernie and I, and we took a good hard look at everything, and we gleaned out a lot of stuff, and then the board could take a look at what was produced and take even more out of it if that's what they wanted. But it's been my experience that when the whole board is there, it takes twice as long.
Well, and the thing that we generate is a preliminary budget. And, I mean, that will be out there any time. Committees can meet with department heads, but there'll be a gap of time between that and the final budget to come in, to sit down with any group and say, okay, talk me through what you did, why isn't that there, why is this there?
One of the advantages of doing it in between 8 and 4 is it also tends to move the presentations along, because other departments are stacked up. They've got these times, they tell them you're gonna have from this time to this time or whatever. They know the other people are, you know, they're sitting out there waiting to come in. Okay, and it moves it along a little bit. We can always go back and talk to somebody more if we need to, but by having it done that way, I think
Plus,
it's
I don't
more
believe we're
efficient.
gonna get them to come in on their own time. We'll have to pay them.
Of course you will.
Well,
A salaried department head?
That's discussions being advanced
I'll
by
tell you,
Mr. Mannix.
that's another, yeah,
But
that's
yes.
that's another tough one, but they look for compound.
Currently,
Not
yes.
my, it's not my opinion of what we should be doing.
Well, a salaried employee, okay, so do we pay Steve Imhoff if he gets called out at 1 in the morning to go investigate a chimney where there's a chimney fire?
I'll
Do we
bet
pay him no more money?
I'll bet you there's comp time expected.
That's being addressed.
Then it doesn't need to be, then it can be addressed right here too. Part of their job is to present their proposed budget needs to the town board.
Well, and Paul, some of what we have to do requires that we address existing labor agreements. And so we have to look at that. I mean, but we certainly can be in a position where then we're gonna be able to begin to express to people, you know, what they can expect and can't expect, will happen if they have to work out.
What time are you available? 3, 3:15?
3.
3?
Yeah.
Yeah, have it from 3 to 8.
We can do some from 3 to 4 too during those. For example, the tax receiver's budget is not really very exciting to discuss, as is the dog control officer, and there are a couple like that. Highway, water, wastewater, those are big ones.
Bernie, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You actually end up with a series of different meetings that go on budget deliberations. And one series of meetings are meetings with department heads where we're, you know, they come in with their desires and then, you know, we talk that through.
Mm-hmm.
We also have meetings where we get together and we have the, you know, the preliminary kind of budget numbers that are emerging in front of us. And we work that, and what I'm thinking is that kind of a meeting we could schedule for later.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about a department head, we're talking about the board.
Budget. But we can also try to massage 3 o'clock meetings for those that, you know, might be of greater interest. No reason not to.
Yeah, why not? I'm for that.
Well, that's only talking 3 to 4. I mean, I don't think that's a significant, you know, adjustment to the issue.
Right,
Well,
right, exactly.
No, but if we do that later versus 8 AM, it enables you to participate. I mean, we're not gonna, these things don't last an hour, even with water, wastewater, they just don't. There's no need to spend, you know, 5 hours discussing things that aren't gonna happen.
We had a really, I mean, last year, it was really heartening to see these department heads come in with realistic requests where they had really worked their numbers.
There were no wish lists.
We did not, no, we didn't.
We actually
We didn't
added
have
things
we didn't
they
have
didn't
anything
put in.
where we're sitting there and looking across the table and saying, you out of here, Mark. We just never had something like that.
No.
They came in and they had really done.
And I would expect the same. They're coming in with things they need to do the job, period. They know. There's no wish list. They go very quickly. There's nothing I can think of that took more than a half hour. None. Might have gone back a second time. They just don't. I mean, there's no confrontation of what we can do and what they want at all. They know. It's sort of like Jimmy Woods. I mean, this guy is trying to maximize his dollars, investing in equipment that he needs, not wants, and getting things that last and don't break down on him. That's the attitude. But we can certainly try to pull water, highway, into a 3 o'clock, and could easily do planning and codes, 3 to 3:30.
Recreation.
Recreation, that might take a little time, yeah. All right, does that help?
Well, I think it's, having been excluded for many years, I think that's a good thing to keep, particularly in the ones that Paul has the most interest in.
Actually, I think in anticipation of that, I'm going to change this 8 to 5 p.m. To make sure, you know, we don't have to shut down at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we'll try and fill the 3 o'clock slot with as much as we can first. And even if we, under existing expectations, have to give a half-hour comp, that's no big deal. And tell the department head to use a little flex time. I don't see a big issue.
In the case of Mr. Van Bargen, you could schedule it for 6 o'clock, he'd still be here.
Well, that's without discussion. Okay, so be it. That's coming up. I'll change it as indicated.
So you want to make it till 6?
Life flight is the same old as we've
Yeah.
seen many times before. I don't think there's any increase in the amount either, and that's what I have. Lots of interesting things happening on Wednesday, and I do try to keep you informed to the extent I can. I am miserably behind with emails right now. Paul, I still have that abstract sitting there with notes on it. I haven't been able to really look at it. Stuff keeps surfacing beyond that. There is going to be a announcement starting at 7 a.m. I sent an email to verify that I could share it at large. I haven't gotten a response, but I'm confident I can. There will be something concerning a new flight coming out of Plattsburgh with some bennies and perks for anyone that can be at the Comfort Inn, Perkins, 7 a.m. The announcement, I think, is like 7:10 Wednesday.
This Wednesday?
This Wednesday. I just got that one late. I didn't get it out yet. I probably will tomorrow. There's another very important announcement.
Wednesday, what time? I'm sorry.
Wednesday at 7 a.m. at Perkins. You'll see an Allegiant van there. In fact, if you go on Allegiant's site or if you go on the airport or the chamber site, I think you can get more information. Probably the same thing I got in my special invitation. There's another one coming up at Clinton that I just hadn't gotten to even responding to yet. I got another email from President Jablonski wanting to know if I was going to be there Thursday, where they get announced the grant from NYSERDA, pretty significant with what they're doing with wind energy. I had a meeting today with some architects. I'm going to go tomorrow to the Imaginarium for a little bit. Met with Peter Edelman today. There's some exciting things with that. The meeting load where sometimes they're frustrating to me. I don't go out and say I did this, but I needed to be there. They wanted me there representing the town. Have really accelerated in the last couple of weeks.
Is there something?
You saw the story about Peru. It was in the newspaper. I don't remember if I forwarded the comptroller's report. Did I send that? I've got it on my desktop with the intentions to do it. That really is a poster child for why we believe we need a finance manager. You really need to look at that, and I'll try and send it to you. Like I said, it's on my desktop. It just didn't happen. It was in the press recently. The announcement concerning Lenny's was interesting. If you didn't look at that online, I'd encourage you to do so because the blog comments are very interesting. One of the first ones was the typical negative, person who, well, what'd you expect, can't do anything in the town of Plattsburgh anyway, kind of foolishness. And the deluge that followed that in defense of the town. Because, and obviously that person didn't have a clue what they were talking about. There's a real backstory to that whole Lenny's thing. Don't take everything literal that you're reading. Also in there you saw a couple other items of some interest. There's a lot going on with some industrial expansions anticipated. It's a very busy time right now, and we're sowing seeds. And maybe it's my pre-budget commentary. Truly, when we had a deputy coming in for a minimum of 20 hours a week to be able to attack more things, I thought that was going to last a year or so. I think we had a couple of those today. I said, okay, Marty, you go this way, I'll go that way. And I mean, it's just amazing. We don't have to do it, but boy, do we sure trip up. We're on top of the game. I would be optimistic, and we aren't going to spend money we haven't got yet, but there are a lot of things happening in this community that you want to be excited about. I think everybody but Paul was able to be at, because you had that darn JOB again, was able to be at the transfer of property. That was pretty pivotal. Getting the grant money from the FAA was pretty encouraging, and there are other things happening. So there's a lot going on right now. Just as you hear things, and most of you are very good. Paul chased me Friday. I was not at all available, and I sent a text to him, I'll get back to you, and I never did. God bless him. He called me today to give me a heads up on something going on in the town. Just stay in touch. The thing that's been difficult with the ambulance services is communication. Is as we go forward now, and a lot's going on, and we're building budgets, if we don't communicate, we're gonna become our own weak part of what's going on here. So we don't always have to agree, but we gotta communicate. And I mean, you're all very good at stopping in, I've said that every time, this board is not like other boards. You're very busy, you're very committed.
And we're good at disagreeing too.
We do that with dignity. Just say no and then we move it.
On Thursday, is there a 10 to 12 meeting with Economic Development Master?
Next week is a significant event and the participation level is looking very, very good.
So that's not this week?
No. Next week on
Because I get down Thursday the 27th,
No.
10 to noon.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's October 3rd. From 10 to 12 is the Economic Development Roundtable, followed by a casual working optional lunch.
Yeah, that's going on, but then I also had this Economic Development Master Plan down for the 27th
27th of October?
of September, this week.
Okay, hold on,
Yeah,
going
put
backwards.
it on the wrong place, but I don't know why we put on the 27th, it was on the 3rd.
No, not on my calendar, I don't know, there might be one somewhere, but nothing
It
on
says
it.
Town of Plattsburgh.
No.
Maybe it's just me. Well, that's good if I don't have to go to that.
We, as of today, I think are in process of closing the home grant, significant. We've
Well, I
got to
found
close
that
out,
out.
finance some old CDBGs like Integral Fabrication, Multina, that's important. Our micro enterprise is very close to doing some awards. We've got some young entrepreneurs that are just biting on the bullet to get into business. Again, there's just an enormous amount of stuff going on.
Well, I'm not doing much. I'm gonna go to Tucker Lake tomorrow to that symposium at the Wild Center.
Good.
Oh, good. That's important.
Talk about,
I added
how we're
one, I
gonna
can't
keep
get
from
there.
flooding and stuff and,
Well-
in the future with our climate.
Yeah, the other thing with that, Tom, you want to be knowledgeable of is the town is working with the individuals involved with the Imaginarium to try and get a children's museum, Imaginarium, a major center, which is a destination activity, has a lot to do with the quality of the community and so on, that would work and be supporting with the Wild Center, with Echo in Vermont, with the Strong Museum in Rochester, which is a significant Northeast attraction to families, and a number of other
Where do you wanna
initiatives.
have the Imaginarium?
There's this, I have to be careful, there's discussions going on,
Okay.
but in the town of Plattsburgh is the best answer right now. And that would be,
Well, they broke
a
ground
partner
in the
with their program.
astronomy building in Tucker.
The thing they should know is this
Summer.
program will not be seeking to duplicate or compete with them, but to complement what they do. We'll be looking more maybe at a tech versus environmental focus in some ways. But that's good, and knowing that's important. Anytime you're attending anything, just let me know, because maybe I can share something and it fits into a puzzle.
Well, it's the first of two, so.
Stuff's happening fast and furious, we just try and get it out as much as we can, so if you hear
But I
anything.
have to be back
stay in
to
touch.
some complete streets meeting here.
Yeah.
That's going on too, and that's a really exciting initiative as well, it really is.
I might be a little bit late on that one, but.
So we will stand adjourned if no one has anything else at 9:10. Praise the Lord, and pass the ammunition.
All right. Great-great-grandfather?
Great.
Back to the Civil War. I have to check this out later on.
Stay tuned, you never know what your supervisor's up to.
You might be in Ripley's or
Hey, I'm a young guy.
Fast workers.
Heard of
My own
grandpa business.
Imagine how my young wife feels about being a great-grandmother. Crazy world, it's not stereotypical anymore.
That's the only preference that I.
Okay. Seems how you're the only one that has that